Good evening. I am Armando Cuellar, President of the Weslaco ISD Board of Trustees. This regular public hearing, this regular board meeting is being conducted in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. The board is meeting by the use of Google Meets and telephone transmission, which allows two-way communication for members of the public during public comments. A recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. The time now is 5:37, and I call this meeting to order. I will now begin the roll call. I'll call each board member by name. Signify your presence by saying aye or present. Mr. Isidro Nieto? Present. Jackie Sistaita?
Present.
Coach Jesse Trevino?
Present.
Dr. Jaime Rodriguez?
Present.
Mark de los Santos?
Present.
Mr. Andrew Gonzalez? Let the record show that a quorum of board members are in attendance. Item 3, opening prayer. Dr. Valdez?
Yes, I call on Mr. Carlos Robledo to introduce our individual who will be saying the invocation.
Absolutely, and good afternoon, President Cuellar, members of the board, and Dr. Valdez. Tonight I'd like to introduce our counselor from Mary Hogue Middle School who will deliver the invocation, Sylvia Cromer.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we call upon you today asking your forgiveness for our sins and transgressions. We thank you for the opportunity for all of us to gather in your name and conduct the business of our most precious commodity, the beautiful children of Weslaco ISD. We lift up our school board, administration, teachers, staff, parents, and students, asking your blessings and wisdom as we direct an education wrapped in your principles and biblical truth. We ask for all these things in the precious name of your Son. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Item 4, Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge. Dr. Valdez?
Mr. Robledo, introduce
Yes.
our fantastic students.
Yes, we have a couple of students here. They are both from Mary Hogue Middle School, and how about a big hand as they come to the front of the room here. Say a few words about you. We'll start off, and first of all, we're going to introduce Christian Mojica. He is an 8th grader at Mary Hogue Middle School, and he is the son of Joe and Chrisette Mojica. Christian plays tennis and basketball and is part of the Mary Hogue Middle School band where he plays the saxophone. Christian plans to follow in his sister's footsteps and attend Weslaco East High School and march for the Wildcat Regiment. After high school, Christian would love to attend Texas A&M in College Station and study science. How about a big hand for Christian Mojica? And if his parents are here, can they please stand and be recognized? Parents, are you here? Also with us tonight is Brendan Cromer. He is also an 8th grader at Mary Hogue Middle School and is the son of Chris and Sylvia Cromer. Brendan plays football, baseball, basketball, track, and is a member of the Weslaco East High School FFA where he raises lambs. After high school, Brendan plans to attend the University of Houston and major in pharmacy. How about a big hand for Brendan Cromer? And his mom is here, Sylvia Cromer. How about a big hand for her? And if everyone can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. And boys, whenever you guys are ready. To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas Pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. If you can say it.
Thank you, man. Item 5, awards and recognitions. Dr. Valdez.
Mr. Robledo, we have lots of students to recognize this evening.
Correct, we sure do. So we do have members of our band who are with us tonight because they did a fantastic job over the past few months performing. How about a big hand as the Wildcat Regiment enters the room? Tonight, we want to congratulate the Weslaco ISD High School Wildcat Regiment and the Weslaco High School Panther Corps for receiving a Division I superior rating in this year's UIL Pigskin Marching Contest. Our band students delivered great shows with amazing music and marching skill, earning straight ones from all of the judges. If I could get Mr. Fernandez to come help here as we present our students, and a board member also. We have somebody volunteer to step up and congratulate our students. We'll start. Let's let Mr. Fernandez. Let me introduce them each individually. And as I say your name, if you could please step forward. We'll start off representing the Wildcat Regiment, our field captains, Victoria Cruz. Victoria, she's not here. Catherine Lopez. Catherine Lopez. Diana Villagomez. Jorge Castillo, not present. Brenda Belmares. Brenda. Santos Camacho. Alexis Cruz. Tristan Quintero. Jonathan Hernandez. We also have the uniform manager, Daniela Agua. There you go. Starlet major is Areli Cantu. Is she here? Don't see her here. Captain is Tylee Mata. And we have our assistant drum major, Priscilla Caballero. And we have our drum major, Riley Caballero. And I'm missing someone's name on my list here. What is your name? Ruby Espinosa. How about a big hand? Once again, congratulations. A fantastic job. And also we want to give a shout out to the band director, Mr. Armando Cuellar. And parents, if parents are here, can they please stand and be recognized? Parents. Once again, thank you very much and congratulations. You may exit this way. Up next, we have, representing the Panther Corps, section leaders and the drum majors. How about a big hand? As they enter the room as well, Panther Corps. Go ahead and come on and we'll make some room for you guys. And the Panther Corps, they also received a Division I superior rating at this year's UIL Pigskin Marching Contest. And as I say your name, you could please step forward so we could recognize you. We'll start off representing the Panther Corps section leaders, Victoria Abrego. Ayana Sepulveda. Bethany Lowe. Raymond Sanchez. Destiny Cruz. Sarah Rodriguez. Amber Hernandez. Melanie Villarreal. Alexis Colon. Litzy Cedillo. Angel Colon. Amai Rani Canales. Danny Ibarra. Francisco Riojas. Nidia Murillo. Josue Perez. Color guard, we have Ember Cavazos. We also have Analisa Benavides. Assistant drum majors, Damian Casas. We also have Marina Garcia. And head drum major, Elisa Gonzalez. And where are we missing? We have one here, right? We have one. Did we get your name? Alexis Mata. Big hand. We did say we had the wrong last name. Okay, congratulations. And we also would like to recognize our band director, and that is Rodrigo Leal for the Panther Corps. Mr. Leal. Once again, congratulations. Another great year. You may exit this way. How about a big hand? If their parents are here, can the parents please stand and wave and be recognized? Forgot to recognize the parents. Okay. Up next, we want to congratulate a couple of students who received chairs at the Texas Musician Educators Association All-Region Orchestra. How about a big hand as they enter the room? All right, and we have some members here from Weslaco High School and also from Weslaco East High School. We'll start off with two from Weslaco High School students who received chairs once again at the All-Region Orchestra, and both students are now advancing to area. We'll start off with Isabella Sanchez, second chair trumpet. Anthony Ortiz, third chair trumpet. And we'll recognize our director right now, Ramiro Leal. Is it Rodrigo Leal? Oh, Iram Leal. Iram Leal. All right, it is Iram, but they are married. All right, we also want to recognize several talented young singers who are advancing to the All-State Choir auditions in January after earning a chair in the All-Region Choir and advancing to pre-area. We are very proud. All-Region Choir members are from Weslaco East High School, Brianna Gomez. Brianna Gomez with a fourth chair alto 2 in pre-area. From Weslaco High School, we have Cleo Castro. Fifth chair, alto 2 division in pre-area. And third chair, soprano 2 division, also in pre-area, Iris Acevedo. And let's recognize the choir directors from Weslaco East High School. It is Jeffrey Figueroa. And from Weslaco High School, we have Armando Morales. Congratulations. We'd also like to recognize their parents. If the parents are here, can they please stand and be recognized? Parents. we have one more recognition of students. And we have some students who are entering the room. We'd like to recognize them. These are some talented artists, elementary artists that we have from Weslaco ISD. How about a big hand as they enter the room? And as you look on the screen, you can see some of their artwork right now. Tonight, we want to congratulate 3 students who competed in the 2021 Rio Grande Valley Birding Festival. This contest includes an art category that promotes the wild birds that populate our valley. Students from Cameron County, Hidalgo, Starr, and Willacy County submitted entries, and tonight we want to congratulate the winners who are representing Weslaco ISD. They are from Mario Ibarra Elementary, competing in the 5th grade division, receiving, we have 3 that we're going to name here, but I think there's only 2 that are here. But let's recognize, receiving honorable mention for her entry, The Purple Knight, is Alyssa Rubio. Is she here? No? And then we have placing 3rd place for her entry, Lunchtime, Peaches Perales. And winning 1st place, this is across the entire Rio Grande Valley for her entry, Whimsical Wings, we have Edith Acevedo. Once again, congratulations to our talented students. Congratulations.
Great job.
Does that conclude the awards and recognitions? Mr. Robledo?
Yes, that concludes.
Okay, thank you. Now we go to item 6, proclamations. Dr. Valdez?
No proclamations this month.
Then we go to item 7, public comments. We have none. And that takes us to item 8, superintendent's report. Dr. Valdez?
Good evening, President Mr. Cuellar, members of the board, and members of the audience. Our superintendent's report for November takes us to our first slide. We recently lost a teammate in Team Wasco ISD. And so this evening, we pay tribute and we remember our teammate, Mr. Jesus Jesse Carrillo. He was our Wasco ISD construction manager. So I'd just like to take a moment here for us to remember Jesse, his family, his loved ones and friends, and that we keep him in our thoughts and our prayers. And I just ask for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. The report this evening includes, first, an update on COVID-19 cases in the area, which include the county, the city, and of course, within our school district. The first slide indicates the county data, and I'm just going to focus on the beginning of November to where we are as far as November 15th, which is yesterday. And you see the downward trend. There has been a decline in new cases, a decline in as far as the loss of life. Next slide indicates Wasco COVID numbers, and you also see a decline there noted, both on the table and the visual representation. Next, the Hidalgo County COVID-19 report. If we look back at the first column, September 16th, as compared to November 15th, you see the numbers, right, are quite larger than they are for November 15th. So as far as lab confirmed patients currently, right, in the hospital, Back in September, about a month ago, there were 435 to only 97 now. And the same is true for all the other data points there, the metrics that you see there before you. And then you see the hospitalization out of total hospital capacity percent is 3.37%. And so that's good news for our county and our city. And as well, if you look at the next slide, this is Wasco Independent School District summary of active COVID-19 cases. And you have the total WISD students of 15,704. Total WISD staff, we have 2,278. And as of today, we had 31 active student confirmed cases and 6 active staff confirmed cases. And those have gone down significantly from the start of the school year. The next slide indicates the COVID-19 cases by campus as of today. And so you see the breakdown by campus and staff. The next slide is the WISD COVID-19 student vaccination clinics information. The city of Weslaco hosted its first vaccination clinic last Wednesday for children ages 5 on up, because recently the FDA did approve the pediatric vaccine for COVID-19. And so the city of Weslaco hosted its first clinic, and Wasco ISD will help the city in that endeavor, because the goal is to always remember that we're trying to encourage as many children, as many parents, families to vaccinate their children. And so we will team up to help the city. We had 240 children vaccinated last Wednesday. We still have 6,142 children between the ages of 5 to 11. And later this evening, we will present an item to the Board of Trustees to have additional vaccine providers for the peds, for pediatrics, so we can have multiple sites going on throughout the city to help with this endeavor, right, to have our little ones vaccinated. And so that concludes the COVID-19 update. The next segment is on the telemedicine pilot update. This is another initiative that we're launching, that we're looking into as well. And this is going to be a pilot implementation of our telemedicine. The sites that have been selected, we selected 1 elementary and 1 secondary school. And the sites will be Sam Houston Elementary and Central Middle School. The start date will be February 1st, 2022. And there'll be a training to take place on January 12th, 2021. Based on the pilot implementation data, the evaluation of the program, then we will make the determination on a full implementation for next school year. The next topic of the superintendent's report includes enrollment and average daily attendance data. So this slide shows you the district enrollment or average daily attendance comparison from the 12th week of enrollment from 2021 to 2022 and the difference. And then in the green shaded columns or rows you have, or columns, sorry, you have the 12th week average daily attendance, or otherwise known as ADA, from 2021 to 2022, and the ADA difference in numbers and in percentages. So I'm going to go down to the bottom row of the grand total as of November 12th, which was last Friday. Enrollment currently is 15,690, which is minus 876 students from 2021. And that is true of a lot of school districts throughout the state, and I'll show you what Texas, for the Commissioner of Education, is noting in a correspondence, and some mitigating, some actions that he's taken that will mitigate as far as the average daily attendance, but he has noted how he understands that there's low enrollment or decline in enrollment in Texas public schools. The 12th week average daily attendance in 2021, we were at 97%, and in 2022, it is at 92.31%. And so that's a difference of 1,551 students. Last month, it was at 1,900 students, so it's improving a bit. The next slide indicates the enrollment average daily attendance comparison by level. So you see the elementary schools, there's a difference of, we're short 583 students, and the ADA is a couple of percentage points below than last year. Of course, at this point last year was virtual, and of course this year it's in person. And we did, Mr. Aguilar and I studied the data as far as the elementary, some of the elementary schools that, in particularly that are significantly lower in enrollment this year, which includes like Gonzales, Silva, Airport, Ibarra, and we've included Memorial in this random sampling. And just in this random sampling, we accounted for 501 students out of the 583, and about half have either enrolled in another district in the Rio Grande Valley, or they've enrolled in a school district outside of the Rio Grande Valley or the state. So to give you an example, about 180 students enrolled in other districts in the Rio Grande Valley. And as I looked at the data, we can't really pinpoint that they're all going to a certain district. They're just, families are moving to different areas in the valley, whether it's they're going to Donna, Edinburgh, Brownsville, Harlingen, just different areas, right? The parents are moving. We do account for 90 students, that's 18%, are homeschooled, so they're being homeschooled. We do have 90 that we are unable to contact, so that's work that we have to do on our end to make sure that we follow up on those 90 students. There are 22 families that have decided not to send their children to school, so we're concerned about those 22, and that's a lower percentage. But the majority have enrolled in other districts, either in the Rio Grande Valley or outside the Rio Grande Valley or state.
Data for the virtual also, including the virtual?
Yes, some have they're right. These are separate and apart from. Some have this is separate and apart from the virtual.
Okay.
Yeah. But we did recapture some for virtual. And then the next slide indicates the average daily attendance budgeted for 2021-2022, which it was estimated for the state funding to be budgeted at 15,200. The actual ADA for the first 6 weeks has been 13,586, which is a budgeted ADA shortfall of 1,617. And in the next slide, I included what Commissioner Morath from the Texas Education Agency announced on November 11th, that they would have a new ADA adjustment available for the first 6 weeks of this school year. And so Commissioner Morath said that districts may be eligible for an upwards adjustment to their ADA for the first 6 weeks of the 2021-2022 school year if they have low attendance rates. And this is to mitigate the potential reductions in the foundation school program funding for this school year. And so the agency has worked with state leadership to provide a mechanism to assist school districts. So that's why I'm reiterating that he understands that throughout the state, there's lower enrollment and lower attendance on an average daily rate. And so to approve the reduction in he approved the reduction of minimum number of required minutes of operation for all school districts during the first 6-week attendance reporting period. And this will result in an adjustment that will ensure stabilized percentage rate attendance rates be more comparable to what a more typical school year would be, rather than low attendance rates caused by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And so he understands, right, because of the pandemic, we are seeing lower attendance rates. And so there is no action on our part that will just be done by the agency. And then the next slide we're showing you the Wasco ISD Student Attendance Success Initiative. This is otherwise known as SASSY. Some parents and staff out there have heard about SASSY. It's not a program, it's an initiative because we can capture, and the most important piece of this initiative is that students are able to, should they miss more than 90% of the attendance requirement per school year, they can make up that time of loss of instruction. First and foremost, that's more important for them, that there's an intervention that we're providing, whether it's extended days, Saturday camps, whatever it may be, right, there's an intervention for them. If you look at that first column, and this is broken down by campus for the second 6 weeks to give you an indication of how many students at each campus are already below the 90% attendance rule. That means they can have all the credits as a high school student, but due to excessive absences, they won't be receiving the credits for high school, right? Or to be promoted. So we have 4,000, if you look at that bottom red row, we have 4,592 students in the district out of the almost 16,000 that are already at that point, and we need to intervene. So we have provided this initiative, and we're gonna we've already started, Dr. Cantu and I, having parent meetings. There's some check-ins that we're doing tomorrow with some campuses in order to get some of the children enrolled into or already participating in the initiative. They're able to recapture those minutes. And if you can see there in that bullet, I bulleted a major point there that 239 ADA days of flex attendance have been added to the average daily attendance already. When I studied the historical performance of this initiative, there was one year where I believe about 600 students took advantage. There were interventions done, and they participated in this initiative, and the school district got $4.9 million in attendance. And so that's one way that we're able to recapture, right, some of the loss for funding. But of course, for me, it's not about money, it's about getting the children in to make sure that we are able to intervene and provide them with some kind of intervention to be able to regain that learning loss. And just so I can finish that table for you, the first column are the number of students below the 90%. Then the second column there indicates the number of students already participating in that initiative. And then the percentage of students eligible for each school that there's still work to be done, right? We're only tapping into 9% of the total as a district in this initiative. So particularly we're already into the third 6 weeks, but fourth, fifth, and sixth, and well into summer, those minutes count as well for attendance. So we will hit that hard, and we will go full force ahead with this initiative. This concludes my portion of the interim superintendent's report. And then we have the Department of Human Resources up next for some updates.
Good evening, Dr. Valdez, Coach Cuellar, and members of the board. Mrs. Zavala and I join you this evening because we're going to share just some updates of where we've come in the 2 months since we've come into the Human Resources Department. So I believe Mr. Trevino is going to assist us as he is going to, thank you, Mr. Trevino. So the first thing you're going to see is we talked about from day one our initiative to rebrand the image of our department. And I would like to give you a long story short on this, but I'll give you very simply what we've done to rebrand the image of our department. We've opened our doors to staff. We are at meetings with principals and staff bi-weekly. We meet with our staff Monday morning between 8:30 and 8:45 promptly, and we share a message of what we want to do to meet the needs of our district. Because if we can meet the needs of our district, we're meeting the needs of our student. So if you want to know very simply, that's the first thing. I don't know any way different. Mrs. Zavala knows no other way different but to meet with people, answer phones, return phone calls, and that's simply what we've done in 2 months. And in our opinion, it's been effective. It's a beginning, it's not an end. But I can tell you, we're very proud of what we've accomplished in that portion of 2 months to rebrand the image of our department. As we move forward, you could see, and Mr. Trevino, I'll ask you to go to the next one. I think one of the biggest initiatives we've had when we took over 2 months ago, and it was discussed ad nauseum with the audit, that we need to make sure that we've got some transparency through our department. And it's a big portion of the questions that we receive. It's a big portion of the questions that you all receive. So one of the big portions that we've had that we've taken the initiative with, and I can tell you our consultant's been a huge help in this, you all. So we do appreciate that, and we want to acknowledge it. We are working on making sure that when we have candidates interviewing in our district. So Mr. Trevino, there's a couple hyperlinks there. If you wouldn't mind opening on the interview framework. And this you can scroll down. There's probably roughly 50 pages, but I'll put it in a nutshell. If you're interviewing for an elementary teacher position across one of the 10 elementaries in our schools, as we move forward in WISD, your interview should look basically the same. If you're going to be interviewing at one of 4 middle schools and you're a teacher, your interview should look basically the same. We want to make sure committees are consistent with the makeup of the committee. We want to make sure that the questioning is the same. We want everything to be as open and upfront as we can. So we are having these frameworks. What the next portion we have to get to is the training of our staff so we can make sure we implement these. Same thing is going to be moving forward in our departments. Even if it's non-professional or trades, we want things set up so there is some transparency taking place. Because again, it's not just about what we're going to be doing, but it brings everything faster through the process, and you're going to get to some of that with Mrs. Zavala in a moment. So you can see kind of that's the goal we've taken that. And Mr. Trevino, if you could back out of that one, there's another hyperlink that's going to be just prior or just below. And you can see here's just some of the folders that are all there. So there's numerous things that we have done or in the process of doing, again, just to add transparency through our department. But basically what we can see is we hope to speed up the process as we bring people through and guide our principals, guide our department chairs, guide our leadership as we go through with the interview process. From there, I'll turn things over to Mrs. Zavala because she also has some portions that she wants to share.
Thank you. So one of the issues when it comes to streamlining the department, one of the biggest concerns has been substitutes. It's been really, really difficult to be able to manage the system, especially considering this year we're at about half the number of subs that we have in a regular school year. And it comes down to the Affordable Care Act. It comes down to the number of hours that we can allow substitutes to work without having to tap into those benefits. So what we've done is we've gone back, we've reviewed the policy, we've reviewed the law and what is allowable, and we're right now in the process of reworking our schedules, reworking our calendars, looking at the different job codes, looking at the different positions that require substitutes, and then aligning the schedules so that we're able to maximize the time. It has been a process because it is going to require that we're exact with time. And this is where our time management system, our SAMs at each campus, which is our staff, our staff attendance, I keep wanting to say student attendance, our staff attendance monitors ensure that they communicate this information with the subs and that they keep track of time. Because if our subs are clocking in when they should be clocking in and clocking out when they should be clocking out, then that allows us to collect those minutes and those hours add up to where we can extend from 15 days a month to 18 days a month. And if you look at our calendar starting in January, every month, with the exception of January, has 18 working days. So this means, now January has 19, so there's one day that we would have to cover. But this means that a substitute, for example, that might be there to cover a long-term position, perhaps for someone who's out on FMLA, but a substitute can come in on a permanent basis and service those students for the entire month. One of the issues that we've had is sometimes those substitutes come in, they can only serve for about 3 weeks, and then that last week, you have kids that have an inconsistent person helping with the curriculum. And I mean, that causes a whole bunch of issues, behavioral issues, inconsistencies with the instruction. So that's this is one of the ways to mitigate that. Another issue that comes up is once you hit the end of the month, you're out of days. So you have substitutes that can't work anymore because they don't have any time left. So we have classrooms that are going uncovered. We have had instances where we have 50 or more vacancies or 50 or more absences without substitutes. And that means putting classes together, pulling a paraprofessional, pulling somebody else to cover during their conference time. So it's been a real issue at the campuses. So we're really excited about this initiative, and we're really excited about putting this into place. Our goal is to train all of the SAMs on the 20th of December so that we can roll this out starting January 1. So that's one of the other big initiatives when it comes to trying to streamline these processes that we've put in place under Goal 2 that you see in our strategic action plan. If we scroll a little bit now, Mr. Trevino, to Goal 3, I'd like to go into some of the automation that, again, was discussed when we first came on board. So we were really excited about automating our programs and our procedures. And we had some really good meetings and good communication with our technology department, some good communication with payroll. And then we're ready to move forward, and we have our timelines established. We can start doing electronic onboarding. We can start doing electronic file tracking. We're looking at electronic contracts. And then we get the news that Alio is transitioning to Link. So that brought us a couple steps backwards. Now, the good thing is Link, which will be the new name of the system, is able to offer what Alio offers and then some. And the ease of use is supposed to be much better. It's supposed to be much more user-friendly. But there's a transition process. So unfortunately, that's had to kind of take a little bit of a stall. Right now, technology is in the learning phases. So they're gathering information on the transition and what it is they need to do to prepare for Link. We're also participating in a whole bunch of different webinars and learning seminars to see where that connection is between Alio and Link. And we're also discovering some new things that Link will be able to offer that we were thinking we might have to go outside to look for. So that's going to push us back. We're hoping not too far. We're looking at maybe spring semester to be able to start with the transition. And you know, the things that we were hoping for, like being able to do electronic contracts in March, we're being told that that might be a possibility, but again, it's going to depend on the transition to Link. So that's where we are in that process right now. If you scroll just a little bit more, Mr. Trevino, and we look at Goal 4, reforming our onboarding process, and this is the last procedure that we're going to discuss with you all today. We have made quite a bit of progress. And in this portion of our presentation, a whole lot of this has just been dependent on communication. Onboarding is a task that you just have to be exact. And while we were hoping, again, for Alio to be able to satisfy a lot of the needs here, we're waiting on Link to see how much of this that we can automate. But in the meantime, we have taken steps to be able to decrease that turnaround time. Some of the biggest complaints that we had were employees being able to go from being recommended to showing up on campus and having access to every system available to them. Now, a lot of that was just communication with the different departments, understanding what needed to take place, even within our own department, and our staff understanding what they needed to do right away in order for payroll to get what they needed, and so that technology could have what they need so that employees are ready to go when they step onto their job site. So we have been working very closely with Carlos and his team, with Andres and his team to make sure that those procedures are in place. And like Mr. Budmer said, like Dan said, we meet every Monday morning with our staff. So every morning, or Monday morning, it's something a little different, something a little bit new. And we are actually at the stage where we're able to implement recommendations and to start up on an employee master immediately after they're recommended. So, for example, we have some recommendations coming before you tonight. Tomorrow morning, those employees will be contacted first thing. Their master screens will be generated and paperwork will be initiated. And those are things that used to take longer. It used to take much longer. But now that's happening immediately. And from there, there are procedures again where payroll takes over and then technology is able to generate. But we've pretty much cut that time from what used to be about 2 weeks for an employee to get an email address to less than a week. So there's still procedures, there's still things that need to take place. And because we are still not paperless, we are still depending on that transition to link to go paperless, it does still take a few days. But it doesn't take at all the amount of time that it had taken before that communication and that collaboration took place. So in 8 weeks, we've been able to streamline that. And we are hopeful that once Link comes up and we're able to have more of that automation, that'll cut the time even more considerably. And that's what we have for you today. That's our progress over 8 weeks so far.
Ms. Zavala,
Yes, sir.
how many subs do we have currently right now that we've hired since the beginning of the year?
I'll help you with that, Mr. Trevino. So roughly when we started, traditionally we'd be over 300.
Okay.
We were just over 100 and some up to about 3 weeks ago. And in the last week or so, we've probably brought close to 50 on board, so we're running close to about 200 right now. So we've had a good dent in it. And we had Monday, they had 2 large orientation sessions, one Monday morning, one Monday afternoon. We were very happy. We did go and greet them, and we told them, you're a sight for sore eyes, I can tell you that.
And that process too, we've already seen the effects of being able to right away have those recommendations, go to Dr. Valdez and then immediately being able to make those calls where we're not losing people because we have that quick turnaround of getting that okay and saying, all right, we don't have to wait for a board meeting, we can start onboarding these people right away. So that's helped.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And next we have Mr. De La Rosa to provide you some insurance data.
Good evening, Dr. Valdez, Coach Coveted, members of the board. This is the standard insurance slide that we present to you every month. This represents 2 months of data, September and October of this year versus September, October of last year. So in medical claims, and I'm going to approximate these numbers. So last year in medical claims, doctor visits, surgeries, hospitals, et cetera, the district paid $2,016,000, or just a little over $2,016,000 versus this year, $2,093,000, just a little bit over that. That's an increase of approximately $77,000. So again, both months took a slight hit on the increase in claims in the month of October. However, we're still, keeping an eye on it, but we're still looking in pretty good shape there. As far as the prescription drug coverage, last year at this time we were at just over $1 million. Versus this year, we're at $956,514.53. That's an $87,000 increase approximately. Fixed costs, which again includes your administrative fees, your stop loss premiums, last year we're at $442,000, just a little bit over that, versus this year we're at $563,053.80. That's an increase of $120,441.13. Of course, we're going to see higher administrative fees as we move throughout the plan year. As you recall that the prior PBM gave us an admin fee credit in lieu of receiving those prescription drug rebates. So this year, we expect to receive 100% of the rebates throughout the school year, and that should more than outweigh the benefits of having a admin fee credit. So again, total this year, we're at $3.6 million versus last year at $3.5 million. So again, a little over $100,000 increase. So we're still keeping an eye on things, but we're still looking okay as far as our funding radius goes. Self-funded workers' compensation program, again, this year versus last year. This year, we're at 32 claims through October versus last year at 13. We've incurred a total of $76,307.86 versus last year of $24,554.23. And again, we can attribute that to everyone's back on staff, everybody's back on campus, versus last year, we didn't have very many people working. So the accidents have increased. We've had several employees out due to fights in schools that they have had to file comp claims. But we've got plenty of reserves, so we're still looking okay with that. And that's the report, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Coach.
And Coach, I just want to wish everyone a beautiful Thanksgiving holiday. I'm sure that most educators are so looking forward to the fall break. I don't know of any other educators or educational leaders that have been courageous champions for children and being out in the front lines during a public health pandemic that it's ever been done in the history of our nation. And so I commend everybody, and I thank everyone, and I'm so grateful for each member of Team Wasco ISD. And we wish all our Wasco ISD family, loved ones, and friends a beautiful Thanksgiving holiday.
Dr. Valdez. Before we go to the next item, let the record reflect that Mr. Andrew Gonzalez joined the meeting at 6:11. Item 9, consent agenda. Have the trustees look through it for a little bit, and then we'll individually see if there's anything that you want to address. Okay. Mr. Nieto?
None.
Saita? Los Trevino?
Item L,
F?
L,
L?
L.
Dr. Rodriguez?
I have none.
Mr. Los Santos?
I have none, sir.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Item P as in Paul, number 5.
Item P, 5, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with the exception of item L and P5,
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
okay? We have a motion by Dr. Rodriguez to approve the consent agenda and a second by Mr. Los Santos. Okay, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Mrs. Saita?
Aye.
Jose Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos?
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now we'll go back to item L. Jose Trevino?
Mr. Aguilar, I have a question here. Is this something that we've already been implementing, or is this something new?
Good afternoon, Dr. Valdez, members of the board. Actually, with Sharon Wells, we've had it for roughly around 13 years, and this is a supplemental program that we have within the schools. We let the principals make that decision if they want to bring it in. It's a supplemental resource that we're going to use, aside from what we have with our own curriculum. So we've had it here for many years, and the success rate has been, it has contributed towards a success rate. It's not the only reason, but it's been in place for many years.
Okay. And here's a reason I pulled it. I've done some research and read some articles, and one concern out there is I want to make sure we're not overloading our staff, our instructional staff, with new ideas, new things. You know, pre-COVID, you know, they were doing exceptionally well. So I want to make sure we're not sitting here trying to learn, trying to reinvent the wheel based off of the data that we've collected this year and trying to close a gap and so forth. That was just my concern with this here. Is I just don't want to add on anything else for our instructional staff.
Correct, and that's a valid point, Coach. So one of the things that we do talk about with our administrators, with our instructional strategists, we are very careful on what we have as mandatory versus supplemental. where we give them that option. You know, they say, these are additional resources. We want to make sure that their toolbox is filled up with plenty of resources where they can be eclectic, pick and choose on what the needs, what they need to make sure that their kids are successful.
Okay. So
And that's the purpose behind it. It's a supplemental resource.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Mr. Fernandez. Just a quick question. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
So I know currently we have uniforms. Is this did we get more students, so we need more? Is this to replace old uniforms? And are y'all gonna try to tailor it like we just ordered the Wasco East uniforms?
Yes, sir. So those are really great questions. Good evening, Board, President Cuellar, Dr. Valdez, esteemed members. Mr. Gonzalez, right now, currently in inventory, there are 20 sets of trajes. However, not every set is complete. And so what we're seeing is inconsistencies in our public performances, and what we're concerned about is that when UIL comes around in late February, that we'll be carrying those inconsistencies into competition season. So what we're looking for here are supplemental orders
Okay.
to add on to the existing inventory in order to fit all the types of sizes that some of our students may have
Perfect.
incurred during the COVID season.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So the idea behind us being able to provide these supplemental, for the time being, is to take the old trajes that are currently in our high school inventory and pass those on to our middle schoolers. It's not a permanent solution, but for the time being, and considering the numbers that they're currently dealing with, it will suffice for now. But we do have plans to make sure that everybody is looking sharp and carrying the bravado that most mariachis deserve. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve items L and P5.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Gonzalez for item L and P5,
I'll second that.
second by Dr. Rodriguez. Okay, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Ms. Taita?
Aye.
Mr. Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Let's now go to item 10, discussion items. A, interim financial reports for the 2 months ended October 31, 2021. Dr. Valdez?
Mr. President, administration recommends that the Board of Trustees acknowledge the interim financial reports for the 2 months ending October 31st, 2021. No action is required.
Dr. Valdez, Mr. Cuellar, members of the board, good evening. For the 2 months ended October 31, 2021, in the general fund, we had a total of $177,282,000 budgeted. This is our amended revenue budget. For the 2 months, we have received $28,821,000, which represents 16.26% of our budget. That's only for 2 months. So far, so good. ADA is low, but we're still getting money, and we'll see the adjustment later on. But so far, the amount's good, what we have for the 2 months. Thank you. I want to move to the next slide. These are the expenditures, and again, it's for 2 months, through October 31. The amount that we have here in the budget is the amount budgeted, including the budget amendments. The total amount is $180,265,000. And that is made up of instructions-related items, or $117,544,000, of which we have expended or encumbered $12 million, which represents 12.22%. For the instructional support, we have budgeted $25,345,000, and we have expended or encumbered $5.9 million, which represents 23.3%. Administration is $13.3 million budgeted. We have expended or encumbered $2.9 million, which represents 22.10%. District-wide support, we have amended $21.9 million of expenditures. We have expended or encumbered $4,023,000. which represents 18.31%. And on our debt service, which is the payment of our loans paid from the local taxes of M&O, we had budgeted $2,085,000. We had encumber, actually this one is just a payment of $84,600, which represents 4%. For the 2 months, go back please. For the 2 months, we have expended 13.8%, which is below the margin for the 2 months. It's 8.3% is for 1 month. So we should be at 16.6% if we were to be tight. So we're about 2.5% less than the amount that would call for 2 months. Next. The next 3 slides are the adjustment that we had made to the budget item that we bring to the board for approval of budget amendments. And I want to cover just a couple. The first one is the carryover of state allotment funds. We have explained before, we get money from the state, from TA, that we need to spend over a 3-year period. And whatever we don't spend for the year, we have to carry over to the following year. So at the end of the fiscal year, August 31, we set it aside in an account and fund balance, which is restricted. That's money that we cannot touch for anything else. So then in September or October, we bring it to you all to approve it. So we brought to you in October $6.6 million of those funds, which were added to the budget. We rolled over some purchase orders. The biggest item is $215,000, item that we ordered last year that we did not arrive by August 31. Next. There's other small items that we had in there. The total of all those amendments is $7,391,000. Next slide. That amount, the $7,391,000, when added to the original budget of $172,874,000, gives us a total budget of amended for expenditures of $180,265,000, which is what I presented at the beginning. Do you all have any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Item B, acknowledgement of the Hidalgo County Tax Office collection report for October 2021, current taxes and delinquent taxes. Dr. Valdez.
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees acknowledge the Hidalgo County Tax Office collection reports for October 2021 for the current and delinquent taxes as prepared by the Hidalgo County Tax Assessor Collector, and no action is required. And we have Mr. Sanchez available for any questions.
That one, you don't have it in there. Oh, my report disappeared. I apologize, I don't have my report with me. Can I borrow
Yes?
the report?
Yes, sir. Yes.
This is one of the reports that I left on your table, together with 4 others. I had mentioned to the board on Friday in the agenda that we hadn't received them yet, that we will provide them at the board meeting, so that one is included in there. Even I didn't have it, I apologize for that. For the report from the tax office for October 2021, for current taxes of a levy of $26,211,000, we have collected $310,300, which represents 1.13%. Very little, we just started with the bills from taxes. The year before, for October, we had collected 1.07%, which is 0.06% higher than the prior year. On delinquent taxes, out of a pending levy uncollected of $3,843,000, we have collected $159,513. We have some adjustments of year-to-date for September and October of decrease of $77,200. That represents 4.24 net collections. The year before was 6.08%. That is 1.84% less than last year. And that is the report on the collections. Any questions?
Thank you, Andres.
Thank you, sir. I got one more.
The presentation of the 2021 anticipated collection rate of property taxes for fiscal year 2021-2022. Dr. Valdez?
Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees review the 2021 anticipated collection rate of property taxes for the fiscal year 2021-2022, as submitted by the Hidalgo County Tax Assessor Collector, and no action is required.
Okay, this is information that is provided to us by the Hidalgo County Tax Office. And in that information they have, the section 26.04 of the Property Tax Code requires the Hidalgo County Tax Assessor Collector to certify to the governing bodies, in this case Weslaco ISD, of the anticipated collections in calculating the debt component of the rollback tax rate, which is something they helped us with when we approved it in September. And this is what that is. And Hidalgo County Tax Assessor Collector certifies in the letter that is included in the backup that you have, the 2021 anticipated collection rate for Weslaco ISD for the fiscal year 2021-2022 has been projected at 100%. Also, the 2020-2021 estimated tax collection rate, which is last year, was also projected at 100%. Consequently, there's no excess debt tax collections that need to be reported in Schedule B of the 2021 debt service report. Again, this is a report they provide, and this is a report they have to make. This comes out to you 2 months late. We got this report after that, but we misplaced it. We got it until September, which was already late already, but we need to present it to the board, and that's what this is. Any questions on that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 11, discussion and possible action items. A, discussion and possible action to approve resolution casting votes for nominees to serve on the Hidalgo County Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2022-2023. Dr. Valdez?
Mr. President, during the September 21st, 2021 regular board meeting, the Wasco ISD Board of Trustees nominated Mr. Joe D. Olivares as a candidate to serve on the Appraisal District Board of Directors. Administration recommends that the Board of Trustees cast its votes, which are a total of 140, for Mr. Joe D. Olivares, or for the other 8 candidates. And you have the candidates'
I'll make a motion.
resumes.
We have a motion by,
To have Wasco ISD 140 votes for Mr. Olivares.
I'll second.
we have a nomination by Mr. Gonzalez for those votes, and a second by Mrs. Sustaita. Is there any discussion? If not, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Ms. Sustaita?
Aye.
Mr. Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item B, discussion and possible action for the board to consider the approval of healthcare professionals to provide COVID-19 vaccinations to students and staff. Proposal number 22-11-07. Dr. Valdez.
You have 3 healthcare firms listed for you to select, and you can select any that you wish. These are to provide the additional clinics, and remember, we have over 6,000 children that still qualify for the vaccine. And so, administration recommends that the trustees consider the selection of healthcare professionals to provide the additional COVID-19 vaccine services to our students ages 5 years and older, and to district staff.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Nieto.
Do we have to pick one,
I was gonna say.
or do we pick all 3?
What do you-
It's up to the board.
I'll make a motion to, we have two
One
lo-
you see is out of the valley.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve Divine Pharmacy LLC and Texas Scripts, who are both Valley companies.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Gonzalez to accept the first 2, and a second by Mr. Nieto. Any discussion?
I have a concern, and again, I don't know any of these companies down here, but reading through this, and obviously I heard during this time where administration had released RFQs on October 19th, and a total of the 3 qualifications were received. There was 3 received, Doctor?
No, one was received, Coach, and the standard practice for the district has been that if only one had submitted, then we either extend or we extend the deadline for them to submit. And we have since then changed our practice to stick to the hard deadline.
Okay, here's my concern. It says, it reads here on October 19, it was released, a total of 3 qualification packages were received prior to the extension.
I understand one was submitted.
So this is not written correctly then, right? Am I reading this?
May I read it, or maybe,
Let's see.
because I'm more familiar with the information, let me see.
Yes, it
No, I
was.
mean, I can read this,
On
and
the next sentence,
Original due date.
now I look, but yes, but now the original date was on Tuesday, November the 2nd. Here's my concern with this, Andres, and
yes, sir.
we had one person turn in the information submitted for, for the proposal, the RFQ.
Right.
Why would we ever extend it again after this audit that we just had? Why would we? I understand only one did it, and I understand what Doctor's saying, that from this point on forward, if we only have one, for my sake is, if one company did the due diligence of turning it in on time, met the deadlines, and right now, from the recommendation that was just made, what if it's that company that we're omitting that turned it in on time, and now just because of, for whatever reason, we're omitting one? What if it's that company that turned it in initially and now they're being rejected? So I don't understand why we continue to alter the bidding process here.
If I may reply, we did not alter anything. The bidding process did not get altered. It was an extension that we did. We have done it before. Our auditor we had several years ago said, if you ever extend anything, make sure you advertise it, so it's public. All the people that may want to submit a bid, it's advertised so they can submit it. So we did it with 3 days advance. We have done it before the same day. That looks bad. So this one, we had a chance, and we discussed it with Dr. Valdez, and now we put her on the spot with that one. But I said, in the past, when we go to the board with just one, the board says, well, rebid it. Let's get more companies. That is the only reason we did it, not because of anything else. Let me add something else. The company that you're talking about had submitted information timely, but it's not anything malicious or anything else. We just opened it up to other people. We didn't want to, we're not favoring anybody or anything like that. And like Dr. Valdez told us, in the future, stick to the deadline, and that's it. So we'll do that to avoid appearance of doing something wrong.
And this was in anticipation of the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine being approved. It was prior to that, so we were already anticipating from the news that we had been receiving as far as so we're being proactive, and we see one come in, so there should be more, obviously, responses, right? If you're thinking, okay, this is a nationwide rollout of a pediatric vaccine. The case in the audit is a very different case. That was a case in where that was an RFP, request for proposals that went out, and certain vendors submitted on a timely basis, some did not. Those were taken to the board. The board rejected all of those proposals that were submitted. And then they rebidded and then came back and added the vendors that were not timely. That's a very, very different case. This was in anticipation of the COVID vaccine being rolled out. And we thought there should be more responses to this public health concern with this, the opportunity to have more vendors, more people, it's just for qualifications to have that service for our children. That's all it was. However, we will stick to hard deadlines now. And it could cause some delays in something, it could in future,
Right.
items.
Here's, and I understand RFPs, RFQ, I understand all that, and regardless if there's if this was not an RFP.
Right.
I don't want to get into technical terms, well, it's not altering, it is altering. How else would you define what we did here? If
An
we're
extension.
Adding an extension, okay.
Yeah,
But what does that
just an
mean? When
extension.
you alter, isn't
No.
that
No,
altering another definite definition for extending something?
Well, because
alternate
it's,
because you're changing it, like, sound like malicious intent.
like if we're,
It's not- I mean-
if we're altering the process, or we're altering no, it's within the right of a school district to be able to extend it. The firms that you see before you, the one that you're thinking, those were not, they were timely. There's the ones that are being recommended, those, they're not being excluded. We're not excluding one that was timely.
And I think this is a judgment call, I'd rather, give 3 extra days than have to go out and rebid again for something that we need now. And so I think in this case, the judgment call on extending it, I see why it was done. Because with these vaccines, we'd still probably be looking, it would still probably be out there right now when they're already available to our students. So I think in this situation, I can see where, extending 3 days was going to save us time as opposed to having to go out and rebid again.
And I see what you mean, but I'm looking right now at the paperwork that they're missing. You added a paper here of
Tabulation.
non-collusion forms and other documents that are supposed to be turned in that were not turned in. For example, if they're even licensed in the state of Texas, one of them says not enclosed. Registered with the state of Texas Medical Board, not enclosed. I don't know if it was because they were rushing to get the RFQ in. I don't know what the reason is why these things weren't included. I think it's very important to make sure that we know, obviously, that they are licensed within the state of Texas to give vaccines, and we're missing that information for one of them, which is very concerning. I'm sure they are, I don't know, but I hope they are if they turned in the RFQ.
They're a pharmacy, right?
But we would want to see, yes, I am licensed, yes, I'm approved by the Texas Medical Board, and one of them here doesn't have that on here. I know we had used RGV Vax before too, right? And we didn't have to approve them. I don't know what happened last year. They won't be giving them any more then because they're not here in the RFQ?
No, we
We
invited.
still have them
Oh, we do.
available.
Yeah.
As the city, if the city's conducting, we want to provide, the focus is to make sure that we're affording opportunities for our families to go to.
Right.
That's the focus here. So we are affording still RGV Vax, we have the city of Wasco, and we are allowing you, the board's wishes, to decide which other entities you'd like for us to turn to.
Can we check into Divine Pharmacy? Because they're from the Valley, which is good. They're local. That's good.
Sure.
But just to make sure that they're
Absolutely.
We can bring
contingent
it
on
back
their.
in December, you like, that company.
Yeah, because other than being local, those two have experience with school districts, the number 1 and number 2.
Yes.
If you look at the only thing is, like Ms. Ustaita said, it's true that it on the rubric, it doesn't state that they're licensed to practice in the state of Texas or.
All companies miss information, even the one that provided the information, didn't say how many staff they have.
But
So
they have,
maybe like this, well,
they have
Okay.
experience with school districts, yes.
but
Yes.
they both are doing school districts,
Okay.
1, 2, and 1, 4, doing the same thing basically.
So, again, going back, this is all great. I understand it's for the students. I understand all that. What I don't understand is the extensions. I know, Dr. Rodriguez, yes, it allowed more people, whatever, but very easily, we could have started it earlier, could have started this program, implemented it sooner. I'm not arguing any of that. All I'm arguing is the fact that we are changing, instead of altering, let me use changing, we are changing it, changing things to, whether it's to extend or add more people or advertise. You advertised it on the monitor for X amount of days. It was advertised since October 19th. That is what I want to make sure we don't do any more, whether it's an
Yeah, we
RFQ, RFP, and all that.
Dr.
And
Valdez
that's a
told
good
us
point,
that.
Coach. Yes, I already gave him the directive that we will not extend
And the future.
or, right, we won't,
We'll stick
we'll
to the
stick to the
deadline
hard
that we
deadline.
have.
But Dr.
And we'll bring you whatever it is that we have,
Dr. Valdez, so
that you understand that.
we have one applicant in there, you
And
know,
it- and
that's gonna be it.
that's
We're
it.
gonna reject it and say, no, well, let's go out for more proposals.
That's gonna take more time.
Right.
So as long as the board understands that, we're
Are we
good.
really, I mean, I know people do see the newspaper, but not a lot. Is it the only place we market is the Monitor, or where else do we, is it
Yeah,
really out there?
I only put it in the Monitor. Yes, we did not, initially, we didn't contact companies,
Okay.
because we don't know
Because
who,
that might be a
initially,
problem,
doctors or
too.
pharmacists, well, are we gonna contact every doctor they
Right,
want?
we
So
don't-
we just
Right.
advertise it and put it on our website. And we had announced it here at the meeting that it was coming up.
Okay.
So the second time, we did reach out to pharmacies, to invite
Maybe,
pharmacies.
yeah, they're just not hearing enough.
And I know, an example, we do a proposal for school supplies for migrant children. We had companies from Canada calling us, trying to sell us backpacks. And I said, how did you get this? Oh, we have people in Texas that share information with us. So people in Dallas, Austin, they reach out to the newspapers throughout the state. Maybe they collect information, they sell it, I don't know how it happens, but they do, they
They're on
reach us out to a
Facebook.
lot of places, yes.
So, Dr. Valdez, your recommendation is those two, or are you okay with all three?
I think there was a
Mr.
motion.
Gonzalez
Made a motion.
Mr. Gonzalez made the motion for the
Okay,
two.
we have the motion and the second for Divine Pharmacy and
Okay.
Texas Scripts.
Texas scripts.
Take it to a vote.
Yes.
Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Nieto.
Aye.
Ms. Taita.
Aye.
Jose Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's go to item C. Discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval of a procurement method of construction for the design and installation of a security access control system at all middle schools. 1, board determination of a procurement method of construction that would provide the best value to the district for the project. 2, board determination to retain the authority to rank the proposals to be received for this project, or board delegation of their authority to the administration to rank the proposals to be received. And 3, approval of criteria and points to be used for ranking the proposals. Dr. Valdez.
So the first goal in our district is to keep every child safe, and we want all our campuses to be safe. So the project's goal is to reduce entry into the building by unauthorized individuals. The first phase of the project was to have security access control systems at all the elementary campuses, and now Phase 2 focuses on our secondary schools. And so this phase is for our 4 middle schools to undergo this project. And administration recommends that the Board of Trustees, we recommend the competitive seal proposals method of construction.
So move to approve the competitive steel proposal method of construction, and the board delegates the authority to the administration to rank the proposals and to approve the criteria and points to be used for ranking the proposals.
Okay, Mr. Nieto has made a motion,
Second.
and Mr. Gonzalez has second, and that is for the procurement method of construction. That would be the best value. And for the board to delegate their authority to administration to rank?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
The proposals to be received and approval of criteria and points to be used for ranking for the proposal. Any discussion?
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're first, ma'am.
I see here that we were given a grant for 279,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so do we still have money in that grant to complete the rest of what we need? Because I see here that some schools received it.
That grant is just for this project. We
Oh,
haven't used it.
Okay, I thought we had used some.
We expect it's gonna cost us more, so we'll make it out from the local construction fund.
So it's going to be more than what
It's
the
gonna be
grant?
more than that, yes.
That was my question.
My question is, how, I know we're gonna do the middle schools, some of the campuses have external buildings that aren't part of a, like, say, a main building. So are we, like, when you're going out for this proposal and this project, are you looking at all buildings on that campus, like, say, Central Middle School, that has different independent buildings? Each one is gonna be outfitted, or where's the priority, or where's the
Yes, sir.
focus?
So, good evening, members of the board, Dr. Valdez, Coach Cuellar. Yes, so we are looking at every building to have an entry point that's accessible by anyone who has a card. So we're putting a reader at least one door per building. The main building is gonna have at least 3 buildings at Central Middle School. And then every other door is gonna have a set of contacts that will be monitored by the system, so that if that door opens, whenever, classes are in session, and it shouldn't be open at the time, then there's an alarm, and whoever's monitoring the system will look at it, and they're able to check or send security to go check and see why that door opened. We've had situations where, unfortunately, sometimes kids at elementaries, we used the term runners, because they literally run out of class and head out the door. And so that's very helpful when we do that. But yes, to answer your question, just to give you numbers, Central Middle School is going to have a total of 13 card readers throughout the campus. Big Arts is going to have 7 because of the way they're designed, the campuses. Maryhill is going to have 6, KWES is going to have 8. So yes, every building is going to have at least one accessible door for anybody with a card reader or a card access will be able to get through.
I know I've seen them at Sam Houston when I go and visit my child, and I feel very safe that you can't get through the doors. You have to beep the speaker. So I think it's a great investment, and I'm glad, because we've been dealing with a lot of safety issues lately, but this is a great thing to have, so thank you.
And to add to that, the speaker and the camera on the reader is only at the main entrance.
Mhm.
That's to allow any visitors to come in through the main entrance, and we're already telling everybody to check in through the main entrance to each campus. So
Okay.
every other building is going to have just the card reader by itself.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The card reader is for staff members?
Yes, so
Right.
every teacher, can have a card. The system is sophisticated to a point where you can program the card to be able to access any particular reader, or you can schedule access for that card for, certain hours of the day.
Right.
I mean, it's very sophisticated, and then
Okay.
it'll be able to track whoever or is assigned the card, when and where they accessed, what building and so forth.
Okay.
Do we have somebody already in place? This company here, Gignac and Associates, and the engineering firm, BBR, they're already in place for this?
Yes, so we're already in contact with them, and at the same time, as part of this meeting, we're bringing the contract for you, subject to legal review, the contract with Genac Architects. And so under them, it's going to be the engineering company and the consultant for this project.
Now, let me ask you guys this, I just came back from that conference, and there was actually security companies out there that's what they focus on. And they have their own engineers, they have their, all that, are we wasting funds by hiring additional architects, engineers to do this, when there's companies out there that do provide, all together?
Well, not necessarily. In this case, we're going with the board-approved architect. And so they bring in the engineer who has the consultant under them for the security access control system. So essentially, we are going to a consultant, but through the architect. Now, the architect part of this is the hardware. So if there's any changes that need to be made to the doors, that's architecture. Any engineering part, it's the electrical, the networking, the readers is the consultant under the engineer. So that's why we have a team of experts on this.
Just sounds like a lot of middlemen in this project here when it shouldn't be this complicated. I mean, I saw some of the systems out there available now, and most of these things, I mean, I don't know if they're wireless or not, but most of these things, you put them right next to the front door. We're not going to move a front door or do anything like that. I don't understand why we need architects, why we need engineers. And that's what I'm saying. These not new companies, but these other additional companies out there may save us more money. And we won't require all these engineers and architects to implement new systems.
Well, and
I know what was done prior. It was done in elementaries, whatever. That worked out. Now we have new campuses. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be beneficial to go out there and see some new stuff that's out there instead of having all these other parties of doing all the work.
So several reasons, Coach, and one of them is we're trying to tie in to the existing system that we have, as opposed to coming in and having a completely separate system. So that way, part of the maintenance and the service that we provide to the system is not as complicated. And having
But let me ask you this, I mean, each system is independent though for each campus, like the Memorial has their own system. We're not tying it into the central office, are we?
Yes, we can. And it is one system, and it's all networked. And so through the network, we can access every campus from one location.
I'm assuming some of these other companies allow for that to happen as well. To me, it seems like some of this other funds available here could be used for additional campuses or what have you, instead of all these other parties in the middle here that we're paying out to simply put out an RFQ or something and actually train professional security system people that have those companies come out and bid for us.
And you'll see, a couple of things. One of them is that's where the consultant comes in, and they're coming in through the engineer. And the other one is the cost of the architect, which again will be discussed as you consider the approval of the contract. They're a percentage of the project cost, whatever the project cost comes in. And you'll be able to see based on our estimated budget, what the fee is going to be for the architect, including the engineering team.
I see here you put 8%. Usually in all the other papers, I've been seeing like 6%, but this here says 8%. Can that still change from now until when we actually get the actual cost then? Or what do you think? Is it going to be 8%?
8% of the actual cost. And again, a lot of engineering firms, especially now, they based it on the size of the project. So if it's, $1 million,
Bigger.
$2 million, then their percentage goes down, right?
Okay.
So in this case, they're considering it relatively small. Our budget for the project is around, between
Less.
450,000, 500. Hopefully won't be higher than that, considering it's just an estimate based on pre-pandemic numbers. And now with a pandemic, who knows? It may be completely blown, but hopefully not. We're hoping it's not that much higher than that.
I understand, but I'm still caught up on why not contact these companies ourselves directly and allow them to provide their services or provide their prices to us instead of having, I've been here to Memorial, to Margo. They all have the same system at the same exact location there. They're not going to modify doors and do all types of construction or redesigning where we need architects. So I just want us to be, and I know part of this is from a the 279 is grant money. I understand it's grant money, but it automatically doubles. Now our budget's 500,000. I want us to be be sharp with our money. I don't want us just throwing money out there to different companies because they're out there.
Yeah, so again, a couple of things. One of them was we're utilizing the architects that have already been approved by the board. Now, if we were not to go that route, then we would probably have to go a design-build method of construction, which is where we go directly to the company, but we still have to hire by law or a consulting engineer on our behalf to act as our watchdog. And then we require from that company or manufacturer to have their own engineers so that they can stamp or seal their drawings as well. So that's just a different method of construction that we could utilize if the board desired. But at this point, considering the timeline that we're under, the constraints because of the grant, it expires at the end of May next year. So we really need to get this going.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Any further discussion? Okay, take it to a vote. If I approve by saying aye, when I call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Taita.
Aye.
Costa Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. De Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item D, discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval of the A.N. Tony Rico Elementary School Foundation Remediation Project, CSP number 21-11-14, as follows. 1, final completion of the project. 2, change order number 1 for approval of rain and work delay days. Dr. Valdez.
Coach Guerra, we've attained the final completion of this project. Once the board, pending approval, then confirmation that all pending items and closeout documentation have been addressed, then we'll proceed with the project's final payment.
Move to approve.
Motion by Dr. Rodriguez
Second.
and a second by Mr. Gonzalez to approve the consideration for the approval of the A. Tony Rico Elementary School Remediation Project, ESP number 21-11-14 as follows. Final completion of the project, change order number 1 for approval of rain and work delay days. Any discussion? If not, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Staita.
Aye.
Costa Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
De Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item E, discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval for the Bobby Lackey Stadium Visitor Parking Lot Paving Project, CSP number 21-01-19 as follows. 1, a deductive change order for the unspent balance of the owner's contingency, and 2, final completion of the project, including rain days. Dr. Valdez.
This project will be deemed to be completed on time upon approval of the additional days requested, and there'll be no liquidated damages assessed to the contractor. Administration recommends the Board of Trustees approve.
Move to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion by
Wait, Coach.
Nieto? No.
Second.
Myself.
Okay, Dr. Rodriguez. And do we have a second?
Second by me.
Second by Mr. Nieto. 2, consider the approval for the Bobby Lackey Stadium Visitor Parking Lot Paving Project, CSP number 21-01-19 as follows. A deductive change order for the unspent balance of the owner's contingency and the final completion of the project, including rain days. Any discussion?
We're happy with all the completion, everything, any order, change orders that we had from the prior time?
Yeah, so, yeah, everything has been completed. We're just, well, I'm sorry, I take it back. I was confusing it with the RICO project, but.
Right.
No, we do have a couple of items that we want to make sure that they complete on the electrical portion. That was delayed because of the delivery of the poles that we had out there. But other than that, everything else is complete, yes. And again, unspent balance of $17,000 is coming back to us.
Okay. Take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Ms. Taita.
Aye.
Costa Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Dos Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item F, discussion and possible action for the board to consider to either renew contract with Purdue, Brandon, Fielder Collins, and Mott LLP for delinquent tax collection services, or seek request for qualifications for delinquent tax collection services. Dr. Valdez.
So the purpose of the firm is to collect delinquent property taxes owed to the district, and administration will follow the next steps, whatever the board wishes to, however they wish to proceed.
I move to approve the contract with Purdue, Brandon, and Field and Collins.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nieto to approve the contract for,
To renew it?
Pardon?
To renew it?
to renew it, yes.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Gonzalez. for the renewal of the contract with Purdue and, let's see, Brandon Fielder Collins and Mott LLP for delinquent tax collection services. Do we have any discussion?
I know that in the update, they put that over the last 4 years, they've done a very good job, especially this past 2 years during COVID. We didn't expect to recover as much as we did, over 95%, and I think they're doing a very good job, so I believe we should continue if they're doing a good job.
I think they are doing a great job. I've been very impressed with them. My only question is, why is Weslaco one of the only ones in the valley who use Purdue? I believe mostly all the other districts use another company. Why is Weslaco one of the only ones, if not the only one, who uses Purdue?
We're not the only ones.
Or maybe like 2 out of the valley?
They're the small cat in town, but their collections were more. That's why when we chose them. Other than that, I mean, they've done an excellent job.
How many years have they been working with us?
Probably since 15.
2015?
Somebody.
Yes.
Andres would know.
We have one of the partners with Purdue. She might answer some of the questions that you have.
Oh, okay.
My name is Thelma Bandu. Yes, we are a small firm down here, but we are not a small law firm. We had last year our 50th anniversary. Unfortunately, COVID wiped out all the plans we had for our celebration of our 50 years in business. We have our clients here are City of Mercedes, Weslaco ISD, La Jolla, City of Sullivan, City of Pinitas, and we also have some water districts that we represent. But our law firm is not a small law firm. We're based out of Amarillo. Some of the attorneys that work for Linebarger started with Larry Brandon when he first started the firm. So, yeah, we may not be well-known down here, but we are not a fly-by-night. Our firm has been in existence now 51 years.
Okay, so a lot of the cities are the ones who you work for? Not so much the school districts, but the cities?
Right, and it's just because we don't have that many clients. The firm has several hundred clients, and like I said, one thing, I have worked for both law firms. I worked for Linebarger for 10 years, and I've worked for Purdue since 2007. I will tell you one thing that I do like about working for Purdue is that I can call, the partners, when we communicate with each other, I can call somebody, I can ask some of the other offices to help me out. They've all experienced them. That's one thing I do like. We may only have Iram and I here, but that is not all that's available to you. You have Carlo Pope Osborne and Omar Garcia doing your audit and appeal work. They are some of the best in the industry. They've developed a very good relationship with the controller. You have Robert Mott, who probably is an expert. I think anybody would say that he's an expert in appellate work, in appraisal district work, in school finance, and I've never, in all the years I've known the man, I've never asked him a question that he didn't know the answer to. And Bruce Medley is my little walking encyclopedia. So we do have a lot of people that we can call on, and I've never had somebody turn me down. And that's been the one thing that I've really liked about working for this law firm, is that if I have a bankruptcy issue, I can call somebody in our Amarillo office, somebody in our Houston office, if I don't know the answer. And they'll even get a conference call together, and we'll talk it over, and we'll talk about different ideas. We have a bankruptcy committee that we all meet a couple of times a month, discussing cases, giving each other heads up. Are we seeing a problem? We monitor the bankruptcies, because some of these bankruptcies move, they're already getting the plan approved before even know they filed bankruptcy. They're moving so fast. And that is the one thing that I really enjoyed working with the firm.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. Just your presence simply means a lot.
Iram would have been here, but unfortunately he was out of town, and so you got, I would say the B team. I'm the older one in the office, but Iram's the face of the firm. He's the good-looking one. I'm the older one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just saying, when I do my title research, I have it's so seldom that I can say, God, that happened before I was born. That, as I've gotten older, that thought becomes less and less, whereas a transaction that actually happens before I was born, and I guess it's a function of being old.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. More discussion?
To keep everything fair and to keep everything, I know there's only 2 firms that do it, right? That focus on delinquencies and collections and so forth. And I would like to be able to open this up, obviously, it's already, there's a motion already, but open this up to see what the other company offers.
Well, let's take a vote first, and if,
But that's in discussion right now.
well, the discussion to renew. Am I correct? Council, or can Mr. Trevino? Okay, go ahead.
So again, I would like to see, they've been doing it, they've done it for 5 years, but just to hear the other company, to see what they have to offer as well. And that way we can make a fair selection by being able to listen to both of them, when and if we decided to open for RFQs, and see what the other company truly or has to offer compared to this company here 5 years down the road. I think the data, as far as collections, could be misconstrued from, there's a lot more money that was received. I'd like to see the data from their own company, to see, and these are some of the questions that we would be able to ask in an RFQ setting, is how much have they collected during pre-COVID, during that pre-COVID time, and see if we're keeping up with being able to collect the highest amount. So, I just would like to see, they've done it for 5 years here with the district. I think the lady named out 4 school districts, so I'm assuming this other company is doing all the rest of the school districts here. So that, for me, just to keep things in fairness, and I'd like to see things open up and go out for RFQs, my personal stance.
Further discussion? Okay, we have a motion to renew. So let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye, and no if you don't approve. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Jackie?
No?
No? Jose Trevino?
No.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item G. Discussion and possible action for the board to consider to either, 1, renew the contract for appeal and audit services with Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott LLP for administrative appeals and judicial appeals, if necessary, of the property value study findings as conducted by the State of Texas Comptroller's Office, or seek requests for qualifications for appeal and audit services for administrative appeals and judicial appeals, if necessary, of the property value study findings as conducted by the State of Texas Comptroller's Office. Dr. Valdez.
So the purpose of the firm would be to represent the district in all phases of appealing and/or auditing the property values. And so the administration recommends your wishes of how you want us to proceed.
I move to renew the contract with Purdue.
Second.
Mr. Gonzalez, motions to renew the contract, and a second by Mr. Nieto.
Right.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval, saying aye. I'll call your name, Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Ms. Taita.
Aye.
Jose Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. De Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item H. Discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval of revisions to the Weslaco ISD compensation plan for fiscal year 2021-2022 to reflect visual art stipend, COVID-19 vaccine stipend, ESSER retention and recruitment stipend, and strategist extra duty stipend for Virtual Learning Academy. Dr. Valdez.
We need to update the compensation plan to reflect these updates. And so we do have our directors for human resources available for any questions, and administration recommends your approval.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Rodriguez
Second.
and a second by Mr. Nieto for the approval to the revisions of the Weslaco ISD compensation plan for the fiscal year 2021-2022 to reflect visual arts stipend, COVID-19 vaccine stipend, ESSER retention and recruitment stipend, and strategist extra duty stipend for virtual learning academy. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Garcia, please.
The new.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Just real quick, Mr. Garcia, if, I know the last time y'all presented, when we went over through the stipends and whatnot, I specifically asked you not to exclude one of the hardest working group, and that's our ag teachers, and I didn't see them here. Are you still working on that?
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, I'm working with, I'm not sure if Ms. Avila is on, but we've had a discussion about that. I don't remember.
I just don't want you to
directors?
forget about them.
No, we have been working on it.
Okay.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we already provided some information to
Great.
HR, so I'll make sure that we revisit tomorrow, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Another group, Dr. Garcia, that
Yes.
reached out, I don't know if, well, they're obviously not part of the high school, but the middle school, a lot of the cheer coaches reached out and said, we also work year-round with the cheerleading, and they didn't receive a stipend along with the coaches or the year-round thing.
Okay, yes, and that I will ask Mr. Rodriguez. And also, I think we had already had a discussion about possibly including the cheer in the fine arts, or no? No, okay.
Where is cheer? Who does it belong to?
It's with Coach Rodriguez.
Okay.
He's a man, right?
Yeah, that's true. So, Mr. Staita, the cheerleaders got a stipend increase a couple years ago, so every so often we revisit the stipends. I believe that's the process. So, because they did receive an increase not too long ago, we did the coaches this year, the athletics. So I think the cheerleaders will come up maybe in a year or two when we revisit.
I think they need to come up this year.
I
you know,
think
because
they're coaches.
Yeah, they are, and again, they go year-round, and they have quite a number of responsibility with those girls. So I think this year, we can look into it, and if we have the budget to cover them, I think it's important. Dr. Valdez?
You were a cheer coach,
Yes,
Dr.
I
Valdez?
was a cheer coach, and it is year-round.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
nonstop, into the summer.
We
because of
agree,
summer
but I
camp.
believe that, because they got it 2 years ago, over so
Yes.
many years, they get revisited again.
But the
But we will look
coaching,
into
the
it.
coaching staff also got it
A couple of years ago.
a couple of years ago, and so
The athletic
they-
coaches?
Yes, they did.
I didn't know that. I
Yes.
thought the coaches were.
They did. So now we're comparable with the coaches. Now let's get other, especially also the UIL coaches that coach UIL. Even though COVID happened, now they're going out there and participating and competing a little bit more. I think they're important too. Just like we talked about department heads, taking an initiative to be mentors to young teachers and to their departments. I think all of them, it's important. Okay?
Especially now with the social emotional that the kids need, they're looking forward to these events, and so they're very important right now, our coaches.
I had a question. I'll be the bad guy. I know that we started talking about stipends, and it trickled in from one category, and it rolled off and snowballed into all these other categories, but as these are being discussed, and I think they're great because any extracurricular event, UIL, et cetera, I think, like you said, social emotional impacts that they have are important, but as far as for me, my question is, Andres is involved in all these discussions as far as budget, looking at our ADA and, so he's involved as far as budgeting for this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The only other, obviously, there's a lot of groups. What about our UIL coaches?
That's what I mentioned.
Oh, that's one, okay.
UIL academics?
Yes. Is that what you're talking about?
Academics, coach?
Yes, academics.
I
mentioned that.
I don't recall, that was back in August. I don't think that we visited the
No,
UIL academics coach.
We did not.
Right. But that's something to look into later on.
We did with, well, that was through advanced academics.
It was brought up, it was discussed through advanced academics. It wasn't moved on, but it had been brought up and discussed before. But it
Yes.
is something that we can study again.
Okay.
If
Because
that's the
that's a
request of the
concern on
board.
the academic sector too. I know we've been talking about sports and all the other events, but there've been, I fielded some calls from people saying, what about us, academics? Because that's the bread and butter.
Yes.
That's what drives our district, and that's what brings in enrollment. And I haven't heard that. And
Yes,
then
they're
the
usually
second worry
three
is
pillars, right?
budget.
Correct. Well, there's three pillars when it comes to UIL, which we look at is UIL athletics, UIL fine arts, and UIL academics. And so we have to always
Because
keep those three in mind.
Because I know that even teachers are struggling I know that campus or administrations are struggling to find teachers in testing grade levels. And I mean, do we give stipends for those areas? I mean, because that's, like I said, that's the one that ranks our district. That's the one that brings in the A, B, C, D, and F, I think it is now.
Yeah.
So, like,
Currently, we don't have stipends for testing grade levels, but we can definitely visit the UIL academic stipends. If that's something that the board would like us to review, then we'll go ahead and we'll review that as well. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And the cheer.
Yes, don't forget cheer. Oh, yeah, I won't forget.
Any more discussion?
Reminding us.
Okay, take it to a vote. Signify your approval, saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Staita.
Aye.
Coach Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Dos Santos.
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item I,
He's really electric.
discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval of a contract with the architect firm of Janak and Associates LLP of McAllen, Texas, for the design and construction administration of the Security Access Controls Project at all four middle schools. Dr. Valdez.
Yes, Mr. President, on September 28th, 2021, the board approved to hire the architect firm of Janak and Associates for our district projects. This item is only for the board's approval to enter into a contract with the firm.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Dr. Rodriguez
Second.
and a second by Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir.
To consider the approval of a contract with the architect firm of Janak and Associates LLP of McAllen, Texas, for the design and construction administration of the Security Access Controls Project of all four middle schools. Any discussion?
If I may add, to say, subject to legal counsel review, because we want to make some changes to the contract, so that we want to work it out, Dr. Valdez, Mr. Garza, and I, Americo, and legal counsel to finalize the contract, some of the terms in the contract. Please. We've done it before.
I'll move to approve pending legal consultation.
The motion is to approve pending the legal contract.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
Take it to a vote. Signify your approval, saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Ms. Staita.
Aye.
Mr. Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Dos Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item J. Discussion and possible action for the board to consider the possible termination or the continuation of the contract with GOERO International LLC with respect to roofing services. Dr. Valdez?
The Board of Trustees recently approved 3 architect firms to work with the district on the design and construction administration of future construction projects. Administration recommends that the board consider the possible termination or the continuation of the contract with ERO International LLC.
I'm here to answer questions, any questions that you might have.
Mr. Sanchez, so this is work that had already been started?
Well, no, the contract that we have with ERO, it was to do several construction projects.
Okay.
Several have been done, some haven't. Some of those other ones are part of the list of pending roofing projects that we have that we don't have money for. But if we decide to go with them, whether it's to a note or do a couple of schools through money from fund balance, we're gonna need an architect. And there's a contract right now that says this architect is gonna do those projects. But in the board select the new architects to work on from new projects, want you all to consider, do we continue with this contract that we have or terminate it?
Because like when we're discussing percentages, I mean, like, and we saw even in the presentation from architects, I mean, they offer, what do we try to, as far as get the best deal we possibly can? Because, like, in other words, can districts go and say, I'm looking for a flat rate, or if not, give me the best percentage that you possibly can, and go through each of our if we have, how many architects do we have approved, 3 or 4? We don't go and scale down each one and say, okay, give me your flat rate for this project, or give me the best percentage you possibly can? No?
By law, you can. Remember, they're
You can't.
professional services. That's how we do RFQ, not RFPs. We cannot discuss project with architects. You hire them based on demonstrated competence and qualifications. In the RFQ that we do, they provide their resume, their brochures, the pictures of the schools they've done,
They
and
become
we
part
check,
of
so it's because of what they can do, the experience they have. When you negotiate, that's when you talk about the fee, but you don't compare who gives you the best price.
No, that's what I'm saying, we negotiate with each
Oh,
one.
yes, we try.
To see
And-
who can give us either a flat rate or best fee, because there's architects that said, we charge an interest rate. There was one that came out and said, I just charge a flat rate.
Yes.
And that was the advantage that they felt they had, because they said, I charge a flat rate, so any type of delays, any type of overages or miscalculations doesn't benefit me, because if I'm charging by price, the higher the price, the more I make. In
Right.
their case, for a flat rate, it's a flat rate, and their job is to make sure it gets done quickly and the right way.
Yeah,
So,
and-
or on time, let me put that way,
Yeah,
'cause nothing has to be done quickly, but on time.
And some smaller projects, some firms charge a flat amount, but bigger projects, and most of the time, we have an architect projects, when they just architect, no engineering involved, 6%. This contract for these roofs is at 6%.
Right.
I don't know if another contract will be 6 or more.
So we can cancel this
We'll
and then
try to-
start looking at the other architects the pool that we've already.
Right, yeah, and we're gonna shoot for the 6%.
Or better, right?
Yeah, possible, sure, yes.
Mr. Sanchez, in order, I think for me to make an informed decision, I'm looking at the numbers that were already allocated for ERO to help us with. So in 2017, there was 2.2 million allocated for Airport Cuellar Garza. 2.2 million. Did we hit that? Did we go over with ERO? Did we come under? How did we do?
Initially, we thought it was gonna be that amount.
Mhm.
I don't know, you remember when Mr. Trevino asked me why we hadn't done roofs before. I said, we tried when we thought we had wrong numbers. I admitted that before.
Mhm.
We thought it was gonna be that much. So the school that I listed in the contract is what we thought it was gonna be that much. We thought airport was gonna be at about 100,000. When we hired the companies, it turned out that it was gonna be the whole roof. It turned out almost 1.3 million. So we were only able to do the few schools that are listed here with the 2.2. So then, we did an amendment to the contract, which is included here to say, we wanted all these projects, we done this for 2.2 million, the remaining will be coming up at 6% or whatever they cost. And there was an estimate of almost 13 million for all these schools. And we've been doing projects with them. The last project we did, Memorial, Norwich, and Transition Center at the high school, were part of that contract that we had with them.
That was my next question. Those schools, I see that we allocated 3.1 million.
Right.
Did we get there? Did we go over? Were we under budget? How did we do?
Well, we were below.
We
on
were
the- on the
below
contract. Yes. Yes,
The
we were below on
3.1
yes,
that
yes,
we
were.
allocated.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we did.
And this brings me, because the next item on the agenda kind of goes with this, I think, because if we did have any type of damage to our roofs, if we did have any type of damage because of Hurricane Hannah, we're already approving somebody to fix roofs, even though we might hear Hurricane Hannah messed these roofs up. This is the money we're going to help you with. So do we have to approve this right now, or can we first listen to what the engineers from the other firm will say?
Right, in this contract, the contract's in place. If you decide to continue, it continues, that's it. We're not going with the project, it just continue with the
Okay.
contract. We can wait 6 months, a year, so.
Mr. President,
we can
I
make
make a motion to table the item?
I was gonna make a motion to terminate, I mean, the district the administration suggesting that we have the possibility to terminate the contract currently and then look at the current architects that we've already recently approved.
I'll rescind my motion, Mr. President. Go ahead.
Okay. I make a motion to terminate the contract.
Okay, I have a
with,
motion by Mr. De Los Santos to terminate.
GOERO. Yes.
I'll second that.
And a second by
I'll second it.
Dr. Rodriguez. Okay, we have a motion to terminate the continuation of the contract with GOERO International LLC with respect to roofing services. Any discussion? Okay, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Rita?
Aye.
Jose Trevino,
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez,
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos,
Aye.
and Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Item K, discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval of a contract with the law firm of Flores and, is that
Elias?
Elias Prada PLLC, and a corresponding resolution related to possible property damage to district property caused by Hurricane Hanna. Dr. Valdez.
On October 19th, 2021, the board did approve to hire the law firm of Flores Pelais and Prada PLLC. A required contract and a resolution needs to be approved by the Board of Trustees, and we have had legal counsel, Mr. Sepulveda, review both the contract and the resolution. And administration recommends your approval.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Staita to approve,
Second.
and a second by Mr. Los Santos.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have any discussion?
Yes. Mr. Sepulveda, you know, when I first requested the contract, it was a bunch of litigation verbiage on it, and we specifically told the firm, you're not gonna go sue anybody, and you're gonna bring all your findings to us, because we do have old roofs, so we need to look at that. So I just want to make sure that this,
We had a board, on Wednesday, we had Mr.
Otis?
Flores online, is that correct?
Correct.
You said that you did not sue anybody without board.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear.
I checked that too. It's in the contract, I think, where it says the action taken or settlement, everything's up to the board.
Yes.
And the only thing that I want to clarify is that this is exclusively Hurricane Hanna damages, not anything pre-existing or anything that might surface. It's specifically for Hurricane Hanna, right?
Yes, that includes all schools in the district. This is an assessment, try to settle,
If there is a claim to be filed.
Yes. Any more discussion? Okay, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye. I'm going to call your name. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Staita?
Aye.
Mr. Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item L, discussion and possible action for the board to consider, 1, approval of a plan to finance, 2, select a method of sale, and 3, select one or more underwriters for the possible insurance or issuance and sale of unlimited tax refunding bonds, taxable series 2022. Dr. Valdez.
Weslaco ISD currently has the opportunity to refinance a portion of its long-term unlimited tax debt for economic savings. The current low interest rates allow the district to achieve debt service cash flow savings for immediate budget relief. So we do have, and administration is recommending approval. We do have Mr. Sanchez and Mr. Chris Vela here, should the board have any questions. And Mr. Sanchez, will Mr. Vela be presenting? Oh, there you are, Mr. Vela. Hello.
Yeah, he can make the presentation. The presentation is attached as part of the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Chris Vela with Hilltop Securities, financial advisors to the district. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present before the board. Ladies and gentlemen, for the record, my name is Chris Vela, financial advisors to the district. One of the services that we provide on an ongoing basis to the district is the ongoing analysis of refunding opportunities on existing debt. To that end, we have been monitoring for quite some time now the possibility of refunding the 215 unlimited tax school building bonds for savings. and of course, as a result of the low interest environment that we have done. The first notice that we presented to the administration was dated in December of 2019. That was the first, and a subsequent number of updates have been provided to the district over time. The savings fluctuate because these bonds are callable, and by that I mean that they can be paid off on a current basis on 2/15 of 25. So it's quite some time before the call date. Now, taking you back to why we're doing it on a taxable basis and how we cannot do it on a tax exempt basis. You will recall that back in 2017, there was some legislation that was done in terms of taxes, and one of the things that went away was the ability to do advance refundings on a tax exempt basis. So consequently, that was part of the revenue, part of the revenue raising measures that the Congress approved to allow the government to do these things. So you can no longer do advance refundings. You can do them only if it's a current refunding. And a current refunding is defined as a refunding that is done 90 days prior to the call date. So in this particular case, if you were to do a current refunding on a tax exempt basis for the 2/15s, you would be looking at November 24. So we got some time to go there. If you look at what the savings are, and you look at the presentation that, did you provide?
Yeah, they have.
Okay. I'm going to take you to page 5 on my presentation. I don't know which one.
You've got the page number right here.
This one right here. I want to point out to you on column that says existing unlimited debt service. Those are your unlimited tax bonds that are outstanding. And you'll see how we structured the savings up front so that you can take advantage of those savings in those years. And then it will level off in the years that you need the savings, and then it will drop to a little bit over $3 million. Now, what all of the refundings that we have done for the district in the past have all been with the goal of reducing the transfer from the general fund to the INS fund, so that you can, when you declare the unintended fund balance, surplus fund balance, this would be less. So any transfers that you would be doing out of unintended fund balance, that would be that amount less. Now, these are estimates at this time. They will fluctuate because the market fluctuates by the hour, by the minute, if you will. So these are just estimates that we now have. Now, one of the things that we would like to do is to also point out to you on page 9 on the timetable. Most school districts here in the area, or in the state for that matter, utilize what they call a parameter sale. And they do a delegation of authority. What we would like to do is to come back sometime between November and January and come back to the board and brief them on a possible delegation parameter sale and what the parameters would be to comply with state law. Typically, what that does, it appoints the board delegates authority to pricing officer or officers, if you will, usually the superintendent or the CFO, or could be just one person, and they could execute based on the parameters that are adopted by the board and delegated to the pricing officer or officers. What that does, it allows the financial advisor, and the underwriters to work very closely with current market conditions, get the offering documents ready, and execute at a moment's notice without having to work around the board meetings, if that makes sense. Now, some districts like to do this, and some districts don't like to do this. We can work with you whichever way that you want for us to proceed. So, just an option and something to consider going forward. We would be looking, everything else being equal, at a pricing sometime in early February. And coming back to the board if we don't do a delegation of authority for either a regular meeting in February or a special board meeting in February to do the sale, depending on the discussion that we have with the board sometime when we do the discussion on the delegation of authority. Any questions on the program or on the savings that you would like for me to answer?
I looked over the packet, and I think those savings, I think it's great what you're bringing to the table and the savings that are needed, and I like the way it's structured as well, too, so you see the benefits at the very beginning. I had a question, though, as far as, would it benefit us just to use, I know that we have 60% going to one underwriter and then 40% going to a co-manager. Is there a benefit to just having one senior underwriter taking 100% and selling the bond issue? Or why is that structured that way, and how does that benefit the district?
Okay. Usually, when we do two underwriters with this type of a transaction, we don't like to make it to where there's too many underwriters because you kind of water it down.
Right, the leverage.
And the same holds true, it's a large underwriting. There's a possibility that you get a better distribution in the market with two underwriters, and if you give the senior 60% and you give the co-manager 40%, I think that's a very recommendable and defendable strategy in the marketplace.
It benefits us. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Rather than, okay. That was my only question as far as.
Any other questions?
I guess my question would be for Mr. Sanchez.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the same information as what we had talked about before about somebody presenting how to restructure the financial plan, that email that was sent to us? Is this what this is about? A financial
I haven't seen that email.
The penny.
Yes.
the,
Is this
M&O
the
and
same
INS
information?
Not necessarily.
No.
No, this is a bond that we have right now to sell it again, basically, at a lower price, paying less interest, so we save money for the district.
I mean, this will
The other
lower
one
the
is-
INS cost, so, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I think
right.
that's what she's asking.
Saving it.
Yeah, it'll lower
The
that.
other one is,
Yes.
the other one is something
Right.
that I've been discussing with Mr. Vela
Okay.
about, that has to do with the INS tax rate. We, in 2011, we did a tax ratification election where we added taxpayers for permission basically to approve moving the 10 pennies we had in the INS tax rate to the M&O. By moving it like that, we ended up with zero on INS, more on M&O. The funding formulas allow for the district to get more money through the M&O side. And we were able to get the money, and then from there make the transfer to the INS fund and keep some extra money in the M&O fund. That's how that works. And most districts do that on a short-term basis. We continued it longer because we were making more money. And slowly we've been trying to build it up again so that we can move the INS to what it should be. Right now, somewhere between 7 and 8 pennies that we need on the bonds. Mr. Vela is working on a calculation for us to see how much we need so that we can raise the money through the INS taxes for the payment of the bonds. That could mean increasing the pennies on INS alone, perhaps as the M&O rates go down, to do a switch to go down M&O, increase on INS, so that we can get the most of the funds through the M&O side and through the INS side. And that is more close to what you were talking about.
Yes. Something like that.
And that's something that we can do. We've been doing it slowly because we didn't want to go and raise INS pennies on taxpayers a lot. So we did 2 pennies, a couple of years later we raised 2 more, and we did it because the M&O rates were going down. Otherwise, we're going to increase the taxes for the taxpayers. Even though the INS was approved for them to pay the taxes until the bonds get paid, that is there. But we don't want to load our taxpayers with more taxes to be paid, especially when our values have been going up a lot.
Can you explain? I was told that because Weslaco doesn't collect enough taxes, we're missing out. The government, I guess, matches a certain amount, so we're missing out on $1 million something because we're not collecting the right amount of taxes?
Mr. Vela can fill it, but that's basically what I was saying.
Okay.
If we had more money on the INS, we will get more money. We get, for the 4 pennies, we get about 800,000 in taxes and 1.2 on IFA money from the state. If we were to have more pennies, we will get more money from the state that we're not getting right now because we don't have the INS. But we're getting the money through the M&O side anyway. We're still getting it on the M&O. That is why we get it on one side and transfer it to the other one. But they're 2 separate taxes.
Yeah,
But it has
okay.
to, anything to add?
Maybe we'll have a
The
workshop.
concept that you're inquiring about and that you all are discussing is a concept that's called optimization of state aid on the debt service side. And that, unfortunately, optimization of either on the M&O side or on the INS side for debt service requires and is predicated on local effort. Always has been. Ever since I can remember, that's been the case. So the goal that you're describing is what is the local amount of debt service or INS tax rate that we have to levy to optimize on the state aid from the state. Now, one of the unfortunate things that is happening as a result of this conundrum that we find ourselves currently is the loss of ADA. Because the state formula for figuring out state aid is very simple. It's your assessed valuation that you have divided by your average daily attendance, divided by 350,000, which is the average wealth per student in the state of Texas, and that equals your state aid. So consequently, as a result of assessed valuation going up, ADA going down, in most cases, the state share drops and the local share increases. So what that translates into is a higher local share, typically. And it's an ongoing calculation that has to be done going forward. Tax swaps, what Mr. Sanchez was describing, was something that was in vogue years ago and was brought down from a Dr. Walsh out of San Antonio. You remember and it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Now, ideally, when you do these tax swaps, if they're project-oriented, they're good. Because you identify the cost, you fund it because the yields on the M&O side for those same pennies that you transferred were higher, and you would get more money. And if you would just fund that project and then put the pennies back, the only risk you would run would be this ratio that I'm talking about on the dropping of the ADA and the increasing. And also remember, let's not forget that two legislative sessions ago, it used to be that you had the lag factor in calculating your INS, and that went away. What that did for districts is that it provided you with the ability to use last year's assessed valuation and last year's ADA. With the change in the education in state and school finance, you now have to use current year ADA and current year. What does that do? It's typically higher values, lower state aid. So that's how all of this, and you can go on and on and on with with the discussion. But optimization, the goal is optimizing on state aid, both on your M&O side and your INS side. That's the goal, if that makes sense. Any other questions?
Sir, is it customary, I know you, right now, in looking at this here, there's a senior, Estrada Hinojosa, underwriter, and Frost Bank, and I know you mentioned the 60/40. Is that customary to normally have two underwriters like that? Or is that something that you're just recommending here?
You get a wider distribution by, typically an underwriter would say, "Pues I want to do it by myself," because they sell more bonds. Okay? The question is, can we bring in two underwriters and widen the distribution in the marketplace? Because some underwriters may have purchasers, or they may be able to sell bonds to a certain, and then the other can bring in. So the idea is to bring the best of both worlds to the table.
And the reason I'm asking is, I know Estrada Hinojosa, Hispanic-driven, obviously, firm, and I've talked to other board members, PSJ, for San Juan, they actually hired Estrada Hinojosa, and Estrada Hinojosa was able to conduct a sale, I guess, for $99 million, which generated a big portion of gains for them during that time when they sold off all.
But were they the only underwriter?
I'm not positive. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not sure.
Was it the recent refunding that they did?
Yes.
And I can assure you that that wasn't the case because, well, I'm not going to. If it was one underwriter, so be it, but in most cases, it would have been a few underwriters.
Okay.
Mr. Vela.
Yes, sir.
Coach, are you done?
Yes.
Oh, Andres, Mr. Vela, if I recall, when it comes to the underwriters, y'all normally give us a list of companies, que no?
Yes, sir.
And then we just decide who we want based off that list, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just trying to remember from the last time. Thank you.
Historically, what we would provide is who has provided updates on the potential refundings and how many updates they have given you, and things of that nature. Sometimes they include us as a financial advisor in the proposals that they send to the district, and often not, they don't include us. So the only ones that I did receive, that I do have, are the ones from Estrada, the last two ones that they sent in the last couple of months or so. That's the only ones that I have.
Nothing from Frost?
No, Frost has sent us one also, some time ago.
But not
Because
recently?
they have worked with us. Yeah, those are the two that I believe there's a third one some time ago. I don't remember the name of the company. But Frost and Hinojosa, Estrada are the one that have approached us more often. And those are the ones that we have used.
I would opt to, or I would make the decision to just go with that one. I mean, are they the ones doing the bulk of the work?
I'm sorry, sir?
Are they the ones doing the bulk of the work compared to the other company?
The senior runs the books.
Oh.
Yes, and then the co-manager would help bring up a lot of the distribution that they would need. But if the board wants to go with one underwriter, that's your decision.
So right now, as far as making a motion, is just a motion for one, the approval of plan of finance? Or is it for the plan of finance and underwriters?
And the underwriters as well.
And underwriters as well? Okay.
I'm trying to understand how to make a motion here. Approval of a plan of finance, what are the options? Just the unlimited,
What was presented, right?
unlimited
Presented
tax
on, that's the
refunding
plan of
bonds
finance.
is the plan of finance?
If you look at the footnote on one of the pages that we ran,
Which
yes.
page?
Hang on a second.
So we have to say three things: the plan, who, and method of sale. There's three things you have to make a motion for.
Not yet. Not yet.
I just don't know.
As presented.
I like the planning.
But they didn't present.
Page 2. The bonds that have been selected for this analysis are all candidates that provide economic savings to the district based on current market conditions. Okay? Now, we also have footnoted there the 216s. And what we would like to do is to reserve, if they become viable candidates and provide economic savings to the district, we would like to include some from the 216s, if at all possible. But if not, they stay out. But only if they provide economic savings to the district.
So that would be the method of sale?
That would be what, sir?
What would be the method of sale, the number 2 there, the selecting method of sale?
Select the method of sale.
So we just the sale.
Oh, negotiated.
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 So in order here to make a motion, it would be to make a motion based off of the plan of finance presented today, and with a selection of the recommended negotiated
Method of sale.
And the third one is, I would like to select Estrada y Hinojosa as the sole underwriters, the possible issuance and sale of unlimited tax refund and bonds, taxable series.
Are you making a motion?
Are you making a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Coach Trevino has made a motion to approval of a plan of finance, which is,
This would be this document here.
okay, and to select a method of sale, and to select one underwriter for the possible issuance of and sale of the unlimited tax refund and bonds, which would be, Hinojosa? Hinojosa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Jackie. Saita? Okay, do we have any discussion?
Mr. Vela, so your recommendation would have been to do 60/40?
You're asking me, sir?
Yes.
Yes, but we'll defer to whatever the board wants to do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Andres, are we currently satisfying our debt payment for the bonds that we currently have out?
With the 4 pennies finance taxes that we collected, plus the transfer from the local maintenance fund. Yes, sir.
We are satisfying
Yes,
it by
yeah.
that
Oh,
way?
yes. We are complying with them and paying all our bonds, correct, timely, and we have enough money to pay them, yes.
So we do collect enough to satisfy that payment?
With the transfer from the local maintenance fund, we have enough to pay the bonds, yes, sir.
So we're having a,
We have to make-
transfer from our
Yes,
general
yes.
fund?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. So we're not satisfying the payment, we're satisfying it by using our general fund?
Exactly, yes. We don't collect enough because, like I said, the INS taxes are only 4 pennies. They're probably somewhere between 7 and 8 pennies because of the changes of values and the lower of ADA. That we're not collecting enough out of the INS alone.
Okay, so I would like to recommend, Doctor, if we have a workshop in this right here, you know, because we're obviously having to every year take money from our general fund so we can better understand the you know, even with potential bond out there, just find a way where we can collect more funds so we can, you know, because right now I know we say 4 pennies, and I know we're the second least, I believe, in the valley. And when you compare that to, I think Port Isabel is the number 1, and obviously Port Isabel here, it doesn't compare, it's not comparing apples to apples there when we're doing that. And I'd like to see how big is the gap between that second place where we're sitting at and third and fourth and fifth, or somebody comparable. Obviously, I don't want to raise our taxes, but, you know, we're taking a hit right now with not being able to make the payment.
And we'll do, Coach, we'll set up a workshop.
Workshop.
Yes.
And
And
as a-
obviously, this could provide some relief, some savings.
Exactly.
One or two.
It would net out
I like his plan,
more to the general fund.
Correct.
And as our financial advisor, Hilltop, I expect that you guys keep us informed and you know, tell us, this is what's going on. And let's not wait a couple of years later until, yeah, let's fix this. We're placing the trust in Hilltop, and so just to stay on top of how can you help us fix this?
We have actually, on the question of the debt INS tax rate, we have participated in the past on what it would take to restore it and work
Okay.
in conjunction with Mo Casey, consultants to various districts to isolate what the optimum tax rate would be. But that's a policy decision that takes place at this level here, okay?
Okay.
And we can certainly come back and assist the district in any way that you want us to help you. And
Well, you're the expert, so you tell us how we can get the money. I can't tell you how to do it. You tell us how to do it.
if you want us to help you, we will help you.
They're keeping us informed.
Yes.
I know you said, I think you sent an email back, or you contacted, or you brought this up back in 2019,
He had,
December?
I asked him that.
So, you know,
Okay.
and I know
There's
these
a little-
rates fluctuate, but I think right now would be the time to cash in on this because the rates, the
If-
percentages are.
If you look at this table here,
Page 6.
that tells you all of the updates that have been given.
Okay.
Okay? Now, the good news is that as you get closer to the call date, this becomes more efficient, okay? So the decision that you all have to make tonight is, are you satisfied with these, or do you want to go forward as you get closer to the call date? And take the risk of interest rates going higher and losing some of the savings. That's the risk.
Okay, any more questions? More discussion? Okay. We have a motion or a plan of finance, selecting a method of sale, and one underwriter as possible issuance and sale of unlimited tax refunding bonds. Okay, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Mrs. Taita?
Aye.
Jose Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Jaime?
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we go to item M. Discussion and possible action for the board to consider approval of the pilot implementation of a telemedicine service provider RFQ number 22-09-03. Dr. Valdez.
Yes, administration recommends that the board approve the pilot implementation of the telemedicine service provider, which was the lone submitter, which is Westside Health. The pilot implementation will include one elementary, which is Sam Houston Elementary, and one secondary campus, which is Central Middle School.
So move to approve?
I'll
We have a
second.
motion by Mr. Nieto and a second by Mrs. Taita. To approve the pilot implementation of a telemedicine service provider RFQ number 22-09-03. Any discussion?
Yes. Sorry.
I figured there'd be some.
So, in reading through it and going through it, I just had general questions as far as how this might work. I know we had a survey done that went out to our nurses, and they turned it down. And I guess my first question, did we ever survey the parents if they would use this service? No, okay. So, my question, and I have about 8, so I'll try to make it short. So, when a child goes to the nurse's office, and it's, whether they have Blue Cross, Aetna, how do we know, number one, the carriers? Who's going to verify the carriers of
I spoke with the nurses at San Benito today. I spoke directly. We went to Mission ISD to review the program, but we were met by this company, Goodside Health employees. We didn't get to talk with the nurses directly. So I called the nurses at San Benito, and what they said is that in the beginning of the year, every parent is given a registration form. The registration form is completed and turned into the nurse. The nurse then takes that information and inputs it into their computer system. When a child comes in, if they would exhibit symptoms that might benefit from this type of a service, the nurse would look up and see if they're registered. They contact the parent, and you said, would you like to, have a visit? What the San Benito nurses told me, I spoke to a high school nurse and I spoke to an elementary nurse, is that most of the parents who have insurance are not using this. It's the students who are indigent care, don't have insurance or any way to pay. And they said it works really well for them.
So, let me go to my next question. HIPAA. Who gives the consent of that child if, let's say, the nurse has to call the telemedicine? Is it part of that registration? They're giving up, they're consenting when they sign that
Yes.
registration?
Yeah, when the parent signs that registration form.
Okay. So that's on indigent, they don't have insurance. Okay, so, let me go, hold on.
It's all right.
Is the nurse present with the child and that's it?
Yeah.
Now, are they gonna be in a separate room following HIPAA?
Well, the way that when we initially talked about this, my thought was, we have an isolation room. That isolation room is for any communicable disease. These children obviously are thought to have a communicable disease, so we would use the isolation room, we would use the medical assistant to man it, and we would go forward. But then I spoke to the owner on Friday of last week, Monday of this week, and I had some questions for him. Apparently, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we've been granted $1.7 million for a testing project for COVID-19. This company may become a vendor for the state of Texas because the current vendors are all out of state. So if they become a vendor and we are already in a contract with them, we may be able to do all of our COVID testing, our strep, our flu off-site in a dirty room, so it would take it out of the nurse's office. We would be able to hire their staff to run this program in an off-site. So that was a big motivator for me.
Wow.
When I first was given this task last week, I took it and said, I can do this. And I spoke to the two nurses, and people were surprised the nurses I chose. But I said, if I choose the nurses that were the biggest against it, and I can convince them that we can do this together, they're going to convince the other nurses. The one nurse had already told me, I'll help you, Susan. As a nurse, the worst thing you can see is a child that can't get treated. Day in and day out, they're coming in. And so with this program, it will help us to help those children. The other thing that I talked to the nurses about, I said, okay, let's look at how many kids you've seen this week that you would have referred. They're seeing about 60 to 80 kids a day. The one nurse in middle school only had one student they would have referred. The elementary said they didn't have anyone. The other important thing to remember is that our COVID numbers are drastically falling. Initially, they wanted us to start this program in January, and I said we can't start in January because we have to look and see where the numbers are going to be for COVID. I pray that we have continued decrease in numbers. But until we get to January, the numbers we're seeing right now, we have 32 active cases. It's been 14 days since Halloween. So those were probably Halloween parties. So we're hoping it'll go down, and then we'll have to watch Thanksgiving. Then we come back from Christmas. So that'll give us to February 1st to understand where we are with COVID and what we can do. Goodside Health, they should know by the end of this week if they're going to be a provider. And it would be awesome if they're going to. Because the provider I have chosen is out of Chicago, and they're actually out of Pittsburgh. But they don't understand Texas. And they call me and they're like, Susan, what's up with Texas? I said, it takes a while. I said, but it's of the people, by the people, for the people. And he said, and you're not going to change them. So I would be very happy if we got a local vendor.
So as part of the training, because I noticed on the packet, y'all are gonna train, they will provide the training. Okay, so my question is to go with, and I'll just kind of sum it up because you've answered a few already. So if a child presents flu, COVID, cough, sore throat type symptoms, does that warrant a call to the telemed? Are we gonna swab? Are we gonna do the swabbing there for those types?
that's where
Or do they go to their
I don't know.
PCP?
I don't know, because right now, the way we have it, we wouldn't do that COVID call. We would send them to the screening with the new program that we're gonna have off-site because they're symptomatic.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want, let's say it's my Jason, he's in an elementary. You know, he goes, he shows these signs, symptoms, they swab him. Is there a copay for that? And then they come back and say, you know, this telemedicine committee, do those of us that do have insurance, do we have to pay the copay there? Who takes care of the monies?
Oh, I don't know about that.
And then if they refer us back to our PCP, is there another copay for that? So now if you're out $25, fine, but now if you're out $50, okay, wait a minute. So,
I
and who's
haven't
gonna
spoken
collect
to them
money
about
if
those.
there's copays?
A call would be
Well, you
placed to
can
the
only see
parent.
one provider a
Right.
day, so.
No, well,
if-
I understand,
yeah.
but still, if you
But
go from one and
If
you
they
go.
refer you back to your physician.
Yeah.
But that isn't the way that the program is supposed to work. The program's supposed to work, the child's seen.
But they don't have to go to their
Diagnosis.
PCP,
They
right?
call in the medicine, they go home, and then if they need to re-see, they would be seen by that same provider the next day if they weren't getting better or.
Well, if we can just make sure as y'all are discussing and trying to iron out these things, just ask some of these questions just so that on one side it's great and on the other side, we still don't know, but when we go into it, let's make sure we have it all
The
taken care
thing
of.
that reassured me today was when I talked to real nurses that were really doing it.
Awesome.
And they said, when it works really well. The longest, they said that, a visit usually takes about an hour. And when you're doing, I mean, one contact tracing is about 2.5 hours. I spoke with the Ibarra nurse this afternoon, who just got her medical assistant this week, and she's like, it's amazing, Susan. We can actually have someone in, so, you know, if we're gonna do it in the spring or second semester, it
Okay.
will be better.
Yeah, I think the timing, I mean, when we first presented and brought this forth, it was in September, early September, and, I mean, the COVID-19 cases, active cases, were increasing.
It's
School
60,
had just
70.
started, dust hadn't been settled yet, so the nursing staff felt quite overwhelmed. Now that it's, COVID cases are going down, the dust has settled, and we have MAs, additional staff.
Yes.
At most of the schools funded through ESSER 3, then I think the nursing staff feels that they're ready.
We're missing
That
6
they're ready.
MAs.
We're
Six
missing
MAs.
only 6, and so I think we're ready for it. And just the fact that children can get some medical care that some may not,
And it would be
That-
kind of
that
neat if we-
is
but if we could make
well
this a
worth it.
hybrid approach
Yeah.
and we have it in a central office where everyone could use it.
correct,
Yes.
that would
I
be
mean,
nice.
that would be,
Yeah.
I think that makes the most sense.
Correct.
Because, you know, doing this is, and the girls, and I spoke with one man in San Miguel, said the hardest part was learning the computer part. That there wasn't, you know, they don't have, that was the biggest thing, but I'm assuming that they get billed. I believe I think from a long time ago, because we looked at this like 3 or 4 years ago, and the parents get billed if they know. It's kind of like when you do the, when your doctor would do a televisit. They would just, you know, but this time the parents not involved. And then we still have some nurses that want the parent there. And if I were a parent, I wouldn't want my child to be seen without me there.
And it's also for mental health
That's
services
the
as
other
well.
big part.
Yeah, and so that was in line, you had answered part of my question, you know, as far as the consent, because as a parent, well, I want to be there, but what happens if mom and dad can't leave work? And so, you know, those are my concerns as a parent, but again, you know, having that consent form that they're releasing you know, to be seen just with the nurse, I mean, that's their decision as a parent, so.
And our nurses have a very good relationship. I know they've gotten yelled at a lot, but they usually have a very good relationship with their parents. And especially in the elementary, they've had them from pre-K to fifth. So fourth grader, third graders, they've gotten to know the parents, so.
I think, I know when we first brought up this topic, we've gone back and forth on when to implement and how effective it would be. I mean, the main key is those working parents that don't work within a school district setting, that the bosses can't say, okay, yeah, you can leave and be gone 3 hours, because most times, I know I've been through it many times, when your child is sick, you gotta take half a day or take a full day, and then you hopefully get in to see the doctor whatever time they have an opening, and for some parents, every hour is crucial. Loss of income, especially if it's gonna be a minor illness that they can easily be screened and seen and identified at the school. And so I think any resource, and we're being innovative in any resource, and I want to thank you and your staff for coming back and looking at this, and the administration for doing this pilot program, because I think any type of resource that we offer our parents and increases the safety and health of students is a good thing. So thank you and your staff for relooking at that.
And I want to say that
And Mr. Garcia.
the questions that Mr. Gonzalez has are very good questions.
Oh, yes.
I think that those are the questions that we're going to ask at the training as well. And just like everything else, things are going to come up, and through the process, we're going to learn, how to deal with those things. I also want to thank the principals
the
that
volunteers.
are here.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ornelas and of course Ms. Gutierrez for, they were all for it too. So thank you to them, and of course to their nurses who said, let's go for it, let's do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's hope they become a vendor.
Okay,
Oops, was I clapping?
I'm sorry.
if we have no more discussion,
Can I interrupt real quick?
we'll take it to a vote?
There's a motion, please.
Yes.
We need to make some revisions to the contract. Contract is for 5 years. I think we should go year to year. Also, we should have a 30-day termination clause. Not happy with it.
Pending, who made
Subject to my.
Made the motion. Who made the motion?
Who made the motion?
Yes.
Mr. Nieto?
The motion was made by Mr. Nieto
And second by Jackie.
For pending contract
and second by Jackie.
modifications.
So pending contractual revisions.
Fine, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, the motion is to approve the pilot implementation of the telemedicine service provider RFQ number 22-09-03 pending contract amendment
By legal counsel.
by legal counsel.
Thank you.
There we go. Well, take it to a vote now. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto?
Aye.
Mrs. Saita?
Aye.
Costa Trevino?
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Mr. De Los Santos?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Motion carried. And we now go to item N, discussion and possible action for board to consider for Weslaco ISD becoming a Freeport tax exemption entity. Dr. Valdez.
Yes, we had a couple of trustees request this item to be added to the agenda. One is Mr. De Los Santos.
Yes, I requested this item be placed on the agenda. I know that the city and the school district has been in discussion about this topic for quite some time. And I know time is of the essence, and we wanted to go ahead and bring it to the table already as the year is coming to a close. The Freeport tax exemption is something that I was looking at, reading and researching once it came up, and it is a tool that the city uses to increase manufacturing and investment in their towns or cities. There's a lot of pros versus minor cons. There are things to look at, but like I said, it does increase manufacturing. It does increase the number of jobs that are coming to our community, good paying jobs that offer, like I said, healthcare and other amenities as well too, benefits. And like I said, and to me, this is something I think we should hear our partners here at the city and also the EDC. Weslaco is very unique in the way that we have such a good partnership with the city commission, mayor, and their internal entity, the EDC, and even the county. And like I said, it's advantageous for us to look at as a taxing entity, what benefits we can, participate in as well to increase, investment in our community, increase sales, increase commercial development, and even retail development sales, and also residential. And at the final end, the way I see it, and I know we're gonna get more facts from them, is also enrollment, more people joining our community.
Bringing
So
families.
that's why I wanted this listed.
So.
I know we know what it's about, but can somebody explain to the public or
Oh, yes,
whoever's watching online
We have Mr.
what
Serrano.
exactly it is?
I think we have Mr. Serrano from the EDC and additional parties that are gonna do a presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Valdez, I really appreciate the time that you're providing us today to present out. My name is JJ Serrano. I happen to be a product of the Weslaco Independent School District. So thank you for the time and commitment you provide to our students and our community. I'm going to be representing myself in two capacities today. One, as the past board chairman of the Economic Development Corporation of Weslaco, as well as the current board secretary. And then the second, as a local business leader in the warehousing and transportation industry. So as I represent the EDC, I will only state facts regarding the Freeport tax exemption. As a representative myself, though, and as a member of the business community, I will provide my opinions on this matter, and I'll make sure to kind of differentiate when I'm kind of, on the EDC side versus my business side. So let's start with the facts. We are asking for the Weslaco ISD to review and consider the Freeport tax exemption. This is a business personal property tax exemption on inventory that remains in Texas for 175 days or less and will ultimately be transported outside of Texas. In 1989, Texas voters approved an amendment to exempt these Freeport goods in transit from property taxes. This valuable exemption is part of a larger effort to attract businesses to Texas. And also has been used since 1990 to stimulate economic development. The exemption applies to finished goods, supplies, raw materials, and work in process. In order to receive the Freeport exemption, a business must file an annual application with the Hidalgo County Appraisal District. With this application, a business is required to provide documentation including sales reports, inventory reports, financial statements to prove that the business qualifies for this exemption. The city, county, and school districts are all separate taxing entities. Therefore, each have to approve the addition of this Freeport tax exemption. Both the city of Weslaco and Hidalgo County have approved this exemption. If Weslaco ISD were to approve, the Weslaco community will be known as a triple Freeport community, which would basically place the city in a very competitive position to recruit new industry, and in particular, distribution companies. There are other communities in the Rio Grande Valley, and specifically here in Hidalgo County, we have the communities of Edinburgh, Hidalgo, McAllen, Mission, and Sherryland. All of those districts have approved the Freeport tax exemption. Weslaco ISD's approval would allow the city to be more competitive when recruiting companies that are also being recruited by our neighboring communities. Business prospects have been known to eliminate communities from consideration based on this one criteria. So it is something that businesses look for. Distribution companies typically invest millions of dollars in warehouse facilities, and as you know, manufacturing facilities are typically some of the more higher paid positions, typically starting off at double what minimum wage is, and that's starting off, right? These company investments translate into long-term property tax, which benefit obviously the school district. The EDC is currently recruiting and fostering a positive relationship with a company named Johnson Controls. And actually, we have a business representative from them here today. This company would be generating over 100 jobs and investing $5 million into the Weslaco economy. As new jobs are created in Weslaco, families would be moving into homes and apartments, and their children would be attending our local schools. The company has made it clear to the EDC of Weslaco that if the Freeport tax exemption is not passed by the school district, unfortunately, they would not be able to afford to move to Weslaco, and therefore we would lose the investment in new construction and the creation of new jobs. The EDC has recently purchased nearly 150 acres to expand our industrial park, and we're looking to recruit companies, specifically distribution companies, who are very highly sought after. So now, I'd like to briefly review some of my opinions as a business leader in this community. So for some of you that don't know, I lead a warehouse and transportation campus here in Weslaco. We have over 285 employees. We handle over $370 million worth of inventory every single year. And we selected Weslaco because it's a centralized location here in this region. Distribution companies need to be close to their service area. This minimizes travel expense, reduces lead time to our customers, and, it allows us to employ people within this community, which is what we want to do. The location is extremely important to businesses. Weslaco is conveniently located 60 miles west of Brownsville, 60 miles east of Rio Grande City, so it makes sense for distribution companies to be in that center. Suppliers can easily access Highway 281 in the route to Laredo or en route to San Antonio. They can also access Highway 77 if they're on their way to Corpus Christi or Houston. We are located, less than 10 miles away from the Progreso International Bridge, which again makes Weslaco extremely attractive. So we are a great place for distribution. We can be an even better place with this Freeport tax exemption and be more attractive to these manufacturing organizations, which will create jobs, create capital investments, increase property taxes, and bring the students that we need to this district. So I strongly believe that this added benefit will be a strategic move that will significantly increase capital investments, jobs, wages, and residential construction in Weslaco. All of this will provide a huge benefit to our students and the community. At this point, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Joaquin Spammer. He is the owner and president of Commodities Integrated Logistics, otherwise known as the CIL Group. His business provides import-export warehousing and distribution services. CIL has over 1,150,000 square feet of warehouse space. And he is here to show his support for the exemption and briefly explain how this would positively impact his business, his employees, and the community. So, Mr. Spammer, you will.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for receiving me. Thank you for the introduction. I want to add something to what he said that is very important. The Freeport exception is only on goods that are moving out of the state for the next, within 170 days. It doesn't count the inventory of all the equipment that the companies bring to the city of Weslaco. So for example, if you have a manufacturing plant like Johnson Control, they're going to be using 122,000 square feet, I believe, but they're going to bring equipment. And that equipment that might be worth $5 million is going to be taxed. So that's a benefit for the school district. Now, what you're going to lose is the tax on the inventory that is moving in 170 days. In my case, we have cold storage. We pay inventory on all the equipment inside the cold storage. But what we are requesting is for us not to pay equipment on the produce that is coming in and is leaving within 48 hours. The reason that Weslaco hasn't been able to bring the cold storage community over to the city is because FAR doesn't have a Freeport exception. So they cannot afford it. And FAR is getting all the benefit. McAllen is getting the benefit. Edinburgh is getting the benefit. You're having warehouses built right and left. I mean, more than 2 million square feet of cold storage has been built in between FAR, McAllen, and Edinburgh. And we have probably 120,000 square feet in Weslaco. So the way I see it is the city of Weslaco is losing on the game. Something very important. With a new thing that happened this year with supply chain disruption, now you have, for the past 40 years, all of the companies wanted to handle everything on a just-in-time basis. That's gone. Now all the companies, they need inventory. And they cannot afford having the plants shut down because they don't have inventory. So you have Johnson Control, Panasonic, all the big firms, they want at least 1 month, 45 days of inventory. That's going to generate so much warehouse space that is going to be unreal. There is 35 million square feet of warehouse space being built in the States right now. And it's going to continue moving is going to keep on increasing the size of the warehouses. So what the city wants, what we want, and I guess what it will be a good benefit for the Weslaco Independent School District, it will be to bring all those warehouses over to Weslaco. You have the advantage of the location, is the best location in the valley. You're very close to the Progreso Bridge. The Progreso Bridge has invested a lot of money in making sure that the trucks are going to cross faster. You're going to see a lot of companies moving from FAR to Progreso, and you want those companies building buildings here in Weslaco. Now, once a building is built, we have about 120 employees. If we build another warehouse, we might hire another 34 employees. Those employees more than likely will be Weslaco residents. They will spend money in Weslaco, go to the Weslaco schools. It makes all the sense. Actually, what you're losing is nothing in compare in what you can gain. And if you go to any other city in the valley, they all have it. In my personal case, we ship cotton from the South Texas all over the world. We have about 850,000 square feet here in Weslaco. It's full of cotton. There is a specific exception for cotton in the state of Texas that allows us not to pay taxes, but is tied to the Freeport exception. So we were able to convert Weslaco into a shipping point worldwide. But we cannot keep on building because we still haven't had, and that's what I wanted to say. I hope I make myself understood.
No, we did.
Thank you.
Great information.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate you being here.
No, I just want to say, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. Our location close to the Progreso Bridge, the 1015 corridor, the investment the EDC is making over there in 1015 for the extension of the business park. And then if we look at the cities, like they said before, Hidalgo County is already an entity, a Freeport entity, and then you have Edinburgh, Hidalgo, McAllen, Mission. And when you think of those towns, those cities, they have a lot of advantages as far as jobs and everything for their community. So that's why.
And also the new IBTC that is going to basically come all the way to Weslaco.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
I move to approve and becoming a
I'd like to
Freeport
ask
tax.
a question, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. How much is the amount of inventory that's subject to this tax that will be involved in here?
So right now, there's 6 companies that currently exist in Weslaco, but that's only 6 companies that currently exist. There's the way that this can grow can be extremely expansive, right? So it's hard to tell as far as how much, in inventory that is currently taxed. The other thing is that the way that the property tax works, there's your real property, right? And then there's your fixed furniture property taxes. And this inventory tax is mixed in with that fixed furniture tax. So to say how much, it's very difficult to grab that number. But what we do know is that, by having the Freeport tax exemption, it will create, that competitive landscape for Weslaco to gain the bigger organizations to come here, which creates the jobs, which creates the homes, which creates the property tax, and creates the students, right?
Yeah, 'cause that's one of the things I looked at too, Mr. Andres, is how many companies do we currently have in Weslaco? And I know it was a few, it was a handful. And how much, so what are we gonna lose by now not seeing what are we gonna lose by now if the board was to implement the Freeport tax? The minimal loss on those 5 compared to the potential what's coming in, it's just completely lopsided.
I don't know, that's what I was asking about the amount of, is that something that needs to be approved today? Can it wait till December?
So right now, I actually do have somebody else, if you don't mind if I introduce her. So I'd like to introduce Maria Ochoa. She's the leader for Johnson Controls, who is considering Weslaco to expand their business. Her organization provides fire, HVAC, and security equipment for buildings, and they employ over 100,000 employees across the state, the country. So Mrs. Ochoa can answer a little bit about why there's an urgency
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having us tonight. As Mr. Serrano explained, I represent Johnson Controls. We are a company that manufactures anything to make your building efficient. So the division that I'm in is actually building efficiency. We build the HVACs, the chillers that go inside of your buildings in the basements. We build the air distribution, grills, diffusers, and we also build controls that actually control your entire building, which is, your heat, your air conditioning, basically your lights, security systems, everything. We are currently have 2 facilities in Matamoros. We have one in Reynosa. We currently feed, the Matamoros plants are fed from the Brownsville locations. We have 2 3PLs, which is a third-party logistics. We're trying to consolidate our McAllen warehouse with the Brownsville warehouse in Weslaco. And the reason for that is we can feed both 3 facilities within one location. It is going to be a Johnson Controls run facility versus a third-party logistics. We have in Brownsville approximately 110,000 square feet, and in McAllen about 25,000. The facility that we're looking at here in Weslaco is 122,000, and we believe that within a year we're going to have to expand. We are also closing another facility in Toronto, Canada. The initial job creation for this facility is 70 jobs within the first 6 months. After that, we're talking about maybe 30 to 40 additional jobs with the closure of Toronto. So it is an extremely, extremely large project for us. It'll be the first North American facility within Texas. The other thing is that depending on what our leaders want to do with the, not really made in America, but assembled in America product, we could essentially double those jobs. Sorry. So we could essentially double the jobs within a year, because currently all of that product is being assembled in Canada, which is considered the North American, part of the United States and Canada. Mexico does not qualify for that exemption. So you wouldn't be able to get, government contracts or anything like that unless we assemble it in North America. And Weslaco would be the location that we would do that. And the reason for the urgency is this project has to get on the road and implemented within the next 6 months. We already have, we are in the process of presenting the owner of the building that we're looking at with an offer next week. And hopefully he will accept it, and hopefully you will pass it, and hopefully we can be here. So again, do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for being
Let
here.
me go back. I move to approve in becoming a Freeport tax exemption entity.
Mr. Gonzalez has a motion to approve the, Weslaco ISD becoming a Freeport tax exempt entity. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nieto.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? If not, let's take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Staita.
Aye.
Mr. Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Dos Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
y'all.
much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We now go to item 13. No, I'm sorry, item 12. Closed meeting to discuss A, personnel matters, Texas Government Code 551.074. 1, employment of certified professional personnel. 2, resignations, retirements. 3, deliberation regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, Texas Government Code 551.074 and 551.071. B, discussion on board policy BEC legal, procedures for closed meetings and possible revision to the Weslaco ISD board operating procedures. C, consultation with attorney regarding A, pending or contemplated litigation, B, a settlement offer, or C, a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the Weslaco ISD under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code 551.071. The time now is 8:51, and we're going into closed session. Now is 9:13, and we have reconvened in open meeting. We're on item 13. A, possible action if necessary on items discussed in closed meeting. Number 1, discussion and possible action on employment of certified professional personnel. Dr. Valdez?
Administration recommends approval as discussed in closed session.
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gonzalez.
No, I second
Oh,
it.
Dr. Rodriguez,
Yeah,
and a
second.
second by Mr. Gonzalez to approve the employment of certified professional personnel. Let's take it to a vote. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Staita.
Aye.
Mr. Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 2, discussion and possible action on resignations and retirements. Dr. Valdez.
Administration recommends approval as discussed in closed session.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Gonzalez.
Second.
Second by Mr. Los Santos. Take it to a vote. If I approve of saying aye, I'm going to call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Staita.
Aye.
Costa Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3, discussion and possible action on board policy BEC legal procedures for closed meetings and possible revision to the Weslaco ISD board operating procedures. Dr. Valdez?
Yes, the revision would be to include no remote participation of a trustee or trustees during closed meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Los Santos and a second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any discussion? Okay, take it to a vote. Signify your approval by saying aye when I call your name. Mr. Nieto.
Aye.
Mr. Staita.
Aye.
Costa Trevino.
Aye.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Mr. Los Santos.
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 14, adjournment.
So moved.
The time is 9:15. We are adjourned.